See if you qualify for loan options for Grand Theft Auto 6. Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as usual, I guess last time I wasn't alongside him, so sorry, Chris. Anyway, Chris Figs joining me today to talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 and people saying that apparently you should have to get a loan for it. That's what the bank says. The bank always wants you to get a loan. We're going to be talking about Capcom being on a streak as they seem to have mostly been lately. Going to revisit PlayStation DRM, which was a hot button topic. But more importantly, we're just going to check in on what we've been playing, what we've been up to, and start to show off in the way that we always do of what we've been playing so that we can get you on something new. Before we do that, if you are new to the show, first and foremost, welcome. We are a PlayStation podcast, but we're primarily just people who play games primarily on PlayStation and therefore talk about PlayStation more than anything else because that's where our interests lie. But I have been playing plenty of non-PlayStation games lately as a bit of trying to play more games in general as I have a harder time. So, Chris, enough of it. Let's start. You've been playing Windrose.
I have.
Which I have to start with. It was a great message to see, and I think that in relation, I haven't played Windrose, mind you, so we'll start with there. But for anyone who doesn't know, Windrose is like a pirate survival game. It's a fair way to kind of say it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I would call it. Yeah, pirate survival game.
So give us a rundown of what the game is, what you're liking about it, and then we're going to dig into why do you think it is specifically that you like this game, and is it your initial message or is it something else? But let's hear about the game first. So what are you liking about it? What is it?
Yeah,
how does it kind of function in the way that survival games work?
So yeah, it's so far it's pretty basic. It's in early access. I get basic is a stretch. It's not basic. There's a lot of stuff to it. I played let me look. Like 9 hours of it, and I'm still finding stuff all the time. Yeah. I've gotten pretty far. So it's a lot of like hit tree with fist, get stone axe, hit tree with stone axe, get copper axe. It's that kind of progression. But what I like about it is it feels it's structured in a way where it feels like you could be doing this as a single player game. And to be clear, I am playing it as a single player game. Like I'm not playing it online. I don't have anyone playing it, so I'm like, screw, I'll just do it on my own. And I think what I like about it, and it's what I like about a lot of these things, which I think most of the time why they haven't clicked, is that I like seeing the progression from zero to like, oh, now I've got a house, and oh, my house has 2 rooms. It's like building up and seeing all these stuff go on. And in Windrose, it's cool because you have that with the house, but then you also have that with your ship. And I think what's cool about the ship stuff is like it's the map is really large. So far, there's multiple islands you can sail through. I know that there's like other big land masses that I haven't even seen because I know there's like fences and stuff that you can find in this place called Tortuga, which I haven't even gotten to yet.
Are you telling me that there's a mystical quest to the island of Tortuga?
Yes, I am.
This sounds
exactly what I'm telling
an awful lot like some of our favorite pirates.
Yes, indeed. So no, just it's the combat is cool. It's hard. I will say that so far it's pretty hard. Where I've gotten kind of it almost broke me a little bit until I realized what I just wasn't doing. So like I would go like travel across the sea, and until I got my big ship, it was basically like you were rowboating. So you were just going across. So it would be one of these things where I would like set my character on a course, and then I would alt tab and just start doing something else, watching a video or something while it would go across. And then what would happen is like I would get into combat and die, and then I would set my revive. I forgot. I was forgetting to set myself up so I had a revive point where I was going for my quests. So it'd be like, oh, you go across, die, and you go all the way back to the other island, and then I would go across and I would die and go all the way back to the other island. So that got really frustrating. And then I realized, like, why am I not just putting tents here where I can just respawn here? So that kind of mitigated all of that, which is good.
Sure.
So you can kind of put all the tents around, and then those tents act as like a bed in Minecraft, or, you know, a siege tower in Trials of Midgar, whatever you would call them in there.
Well, and it's kind of interesting hearing you talk about that, because I don't want to derail us too much, and I'm not going to bigly, but it's funny because one of the games I've been playing that, you know, too, it has similar things where there are, you could consider them pain points, but really it's like the game kind of forcing you to learn its version of stuff. And I hadn't really thought about it until you just said it, but in a way, I do think that maybe that maybe that game's take on RPG is more in line with what survival games often do. That I also think survival games, that specific aspect you're talking about, I've always actually considered a little bit more RPG. Because it's like, you know, pay attention, think about what you're doing, and you're going to bear the consequences of what you are or are not doing. And I mean, maybe that's not as much of a big stone pillar of RPGs like widespread anymore, but I think there was a point in time where it was. So
I don't know. The thing with this is, like, it's hard when you're playing, like, I don't know if you've ever played an early access game.
I have, and I usually really don't like playing early access games, in large part because there are things that are just not quite the way they're supposed to be. And I understand that, like, when you buy it, you're buying into that. And I don't think that it's wrong that early access games should exist. I am sometimes bummed by how often we get early access games. And really where that's come from is I've been bummed to see studios with big budgets, with previously successful games, who know how to make a game, and even more so sequels, I think, are the worst version of this, and the sequel coming out in early access. And that's so weird. Like, a good example of that is RIP, but Spiders, who recently closed, released Greedfall 2 in early access. And that never made sense to me. They have never released a game in early access prior to that I was aware of. But more importantly, Greedfall didn't do it in early access. And this is a sequel to Greedfall. It feels weird to me that you would need this to go to early access. What is it that you feel like you need player feedback on to go through? You know what people liked. And I'm not saying that, again, that this is wrong. This is just kind of where my feel is on it. I think early access makes a lot more sense for a game like Power World, where you're doing something sort of new with a familiar idea. And there might be real reason to, you're a new studio. You don't have big funding to keep making the game. Ideally, you get a little bit of injection of cash of people who are willing to play and have fun with it. And then you can keep making the game better. But even on that note, I don't think Power World's out of early access yet.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And that leads to my other thing with early access, which is often games are in early access for like the length of time that it would usually take to make a sequel. And that just seems weird to me. Again, not that it's wrong. I know some people love early access. I don't like that. And then people are like, well, you can just play the whole thing later. Yeah, but I don't want to play. I don't want to play a shitty version of a third of the game and then come back and play the same third of the game, but in better form. Like, yeah, it'll be better, but I've already experienced this content.
I don't think that's, I guess I don't find your characterization fair. There's nothing shitty about Windrose, just like there was nothing shitty about Baldur's Gate 3.
That was just me saying it's clearly a version that needs work, and they're admitting that when they're giving it to you. They're saying, "Hey, this is not meant to be a representation of what we want this to be in a final form. This is most likely going to be a lesser form of what the final release will look like." And I mean, you're right. Using the word shitty carries a negative connotation that I don't really mean. What I mean is that for me, who has limited time, I don't really want to play a version that is not intended to be feature complete necessarily, and then come back and play it again later to experience the whole game.
Again, I think it depends. First of all, it depends on you. Like, obviously, like, it sounds like you wouldn't be interested in it, but like for me, like, you know, something I'm not going to talk about ever again, but when Marathon was in alpha an early access, what I really liked about playing those was seeing, oh, this is like, you could see like there were parts of the map that like there were invisible walls for, right? But like if you were an intelligent gamer, which I played with some people who were not intelligent gamers about it, you would understand like, okay, well, the game is not done. So like what I was getting out of Marathon's early access periods, and to a degree the server slams, but to a lesser degree, was like, am I interested in the mechanics and will I like the game? So for me, it was a demo, but it was also something where I was like, it was cool to see a game like that built. I think one of the things with, on PC, I think early access gets a bad rap because of stuff like you said, where it's like a lot of games release in early access. And to me, I look at a lot of those games as we're releasing in early access because our game is not, I don't know how to say this nicely, our game is not real. Like, as much as I think friend slop games are like cute and fun, those are not real video games. And that's why they always go into early access. Like, what are you going to add to like RV there yet that's not there? Other than the fact that now you can say, well, oh, it's, we're fixing it and we're doing more stuff. But nobody plays that game for more than 2 hours with their friends, right? And it's the same with like a repo, or it's, gamble with your friend. All these kind of games that are made for like the chaos with your buddies to have a good time and laugh because some bullshit happens in the game, right? Like that's I feel like it gets flooded with into early access because, well, we can sell it right now. People will get their fill and they'll never think about it again. Right.
Well, and can we actually lead to sorry, did you have a point to finish there? Go ahead.
No, I just think like it depends on the type of game. Like I think Windrose, to me, playing it is the type of game where I'm like, okay, this is, it's cool that I get to see this now, and when it comes to console, I'll have that experience with it. Or when it's in 1.0, let's just say that when it's in 1.0, I'll have the experience of, okay, I've seen this from the beginning. I know a lot of stuff, and I can kind of push myself through it. And I've seen, I like seeing things get built, right? I don't like it being used for what I was saying before, which is just, oh, well, we're going to put this game out in early access because we haven't really finished it. But the type of game that we're making is a game that you play for 3 hours for a weekend with your buddies. You guys paid $6 for it. You're never going to think about it again. So we never really have to finish it. I'm not accusing them of that, but that's how it comes off to me. So.
Yeah. So what I kind of want to do there is, if you're cool, I know we're still in the middle of talking of Windrose, but I think there's a tangent that I was already kind of thinking about having and figuring out how to work into this podcast at some point, and if I was even going to, but I feel like we're at a great segue. So the first part of that is I do want to clarify, and I think that, before I was talking about it lightly, so I didn't go into the nuance. I think that there is nuance to early access, and I think sometimes it makes sense. Like I said, if you're a new developer and you need funds and you also want to help, you want to have the community be able to help shape your game, and it's a great way for you to get that into a place where people can do so without you necessarily having to pay a bunch of this sounds bad, but it's almost a way around game QA testing, right? Yeah, you're moving through QA and you're getting even honestly better feedback from people who will, not only are they actually interested in this game, they'll give you ideas about how you can improve what you're doing. So I think that those things can make sense. I think a game like which will have, I think a game like Hades 1 or a game like the Slay the Spire, I think are sensible early access games. I have a little bit of a harder time looking at why Hades 2 is in early access and Slay the Spire 2 also in early access. That feels a little more weird to me. But on a different thing, I do think it's worth clarifying that you brought up Marathon, and I actually think that the games that make the most sense to me to have an early access is multiplayer games. And a lot of that, it comes through the way that I think about how you're intended to play a game, or at least my perception of how you're intended to play certain games. So I think a game like Marathon, which has a loop that you're intended to just do over and over and over again, and a lot of people are going to interact with that game that way because of its design being around that, I think it makes sense to do so. Then you get to have the aspect of people who do enjoy seeing how a game comes together and evolves over time. You have that as well. I think for me, what I was kind of getting at, and I do know it's a me problem. I don't want to say a problem. It's a me experience, and then it's not necessarily going to be for everyone else. Is recently, my buddy was over, and his kid was talking about whether or not I had heard that there was a new DLC for Goat Simulator 3. And then also he's playing Kirby still, Kirby in the Forgotten Land, which he beat like a month ago, and he's still playing it. And he beat Kingdom Hearts, and he's still playing it. And I guess what I realized is looking through, I'm an adult, so I know that this is a little different in how this works. But there's also just the way I play games. So I think early access doesn't gel right for me for the fact that when it's a game that's primary thing is going to be around experiencing a campaign and a story, like a Baldur's Gate 3 or like a Greedfall. And Greedfall has a little bit of a thing, Greedfall 2 specifically. But I think when both of those are content driven, like, novel content driven, for me, I feel like why would I want to play that just to play it again later in a slightly better form? That doesn't land for me because the novelty of the experience I'm having is worn off. I don't know how to say that better than that, but that's just how it makes sense. I would also tend to say that most of the time, games that I really favor replaying are action-heavy games that the gameplay is fun, and that's what drives it. There are certain games that I love that I don't see myself playing again. A good example of that being like Tainted Grail. Love that game. I don't really see the need to play it again. I had all the novel experiences with it. Again, me. But whenever I was talking to the kid and he was playing, he's like, well, I beat the game, but that doesn't mean I don't want to play it. And I started thinking, well, that's interesting because it doesn't mean he wants to stop playing it, rather. So whatever I said. But I started thinking about it. I was like, I think maybe I forget and being so caught up in the way I experience stuff that in my mind, I play a game and I want to play so many other games that I just put a game away when I'm done with it, right? Like, as much as I say I'm not against playing Arc Raiders anymore, I also know that while it's not impossible for me to boot it up again, it's very, very unlikely that I will ever get hardcore into Arc Raiders again because I've had my experience with that game. I've had my time, and that's a multiplayer game. That's the one that's most geared towards playing it more and more, but I put it up. But then I move that into story-driven games or games that you're meant to experience as a single-player way, and I do the same thing. I have my time with it and I put it up. And I guess I don't think about a lot of these games that are meant to be forever games are, maybe it's just because of, is this the behavior of children coming up in this generation? Or is this behavior of more gamers in general? And I'm just not being thoughtful enough in how I take my perception of what I think gaming is for me. And am I accidentally broadly applying it to other people? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's very clear that you are a minority. And I feel like everything around the industry tells you that. The top 3 games are free-to-play multiplayer games.
Well, and I think it's worth saying that I'm not really... I do think that there's some value in what I just said in separating casual gamers, not in a derogatory sense, but people who primarily play in a more casual sense from more core gamers. And then seeing how that changes. Because I do think, generally speaking, core or casual gamers is always going to be vastly different from how I experience. But I am curious at how much the difference is between the way that people who think of themselves as core gamers and who other people would generally say are core gamers. What does that mean? I also know that the idea of a casual gamer and a core gamer have been drifting a little closer to each other as games become more popular, because you can spend the vast majority of your time gaming, even if you're playing a game that is usually considered a bit more casual. And in a way, you're becoming more of a core gamer, even though you still only interact with games that have primarily, historically, been as big as they are because of the casual market.
I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I feel like that's a little reductive because Apex Legends is one of those top 3 games and is a very hardcore shooter. It's not a casual game. GTA is a casual game, but again, I think I think it's reductive in general. Like, the people who are playing GTA this way are not casual gamers. Whether GTA is a casual game, if you're spending 1,000 hours on GTA, you're not a casual gamer. You're not. It may be casual to you because they're not playing fucking Pragmata, but it's not casual. We're not talking about Candy Crush. There is.
Well, I go the same route though. You can be a casual gamer, but not. Again, I'm talking about the way that I view it, and I do really kind of mean the way I view it instinctively, not when I actually sit there and think about it, but rather the way that my biases inform my immediate thought process. And what I mean by that is, agreed. I think anybody who plays 1,000 hours of something is probably even if they're a casual gamer, they're not casual to that game at the very least. Now, whether or not they're a casual gamer or not, I think you're making a good argument as to how they still just may not be a casual gamer at all. But I would, at the very minimum, agree with you that you were about to say Candy Crush, with the implication, I'm assuming, that Candy Crush is just point blank a casual game. But bro, if you're at like level 10,000 in Candy Crush, or like I'm at like level, I haven't even played it in like a year now, but I'm at like level 10,000 in Royal Kingdom, or Royal Match. That's what it's called, Royal Match. And so I think I'd say that may be a casual game, but I was not playing it casually.
Right.
So
that's kind of
at the very
point.
least, I wasn't a casual Royal Match gamer, even if I would say that Royal Match on average is a casual game. But that, I don't know. But does that mean people who get hardcore into Candy Crush or Royal Match, do you consider them to just be? I guess I'm trying to figure out what exactly you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong or I'm right or anything. I am open in this conversation to the fact that I'm becoming more aware of the fact that I am not the normal gamer, and I shouldn't really even try to think of myself as one.
Again, I think it's perspective. I think I wouldn't make it because I don't believe it, but I think if you were having a debate with a GTA gamer, I would argue that he could make the exact same argument that you are more casual than he is.
Because you would not accept 1,000 hours.
No, because you're playing small bits of everything. That is arguably more casual than sitting down and knowing Grand Theft Auto. It is more casual to play. And it's not even an insult. Like, I'm not saying it in a negative way, but like, I think it's significantly more casual to not deeply know games. And that's not to say that like getting platinums and doing all this stuff doesn't make you deeply know something. But like, I would argue in a lot of ways, I have more knowledge of Apex Legends, of Balatro, of a lot of the games, fucking Destiny 2, Fortnite. I have more knowledge that I think people outside of this industry would call hardcore of those games than you or probably most of the people in our audience have of the games they platinum. So I just think the casual and hardcore thing is reductive, and it doesn't make sense to me, right? Because it's like I've said before, like you can play Marathon casually, or you can play it like me and Joe and Kev, where it's not fucking casual at all. You can play Arc Raiders like casually, or you can play it like it should be played. You can play Windrose casually, or you can put 300 hours into early access. I don't know. I just think that like again, like what makes a hardcore gamer? Am I a more hardcore gamer than you because I have 6 tubs of PS3 games and PS2 games just like hanging around right now? No, I don't think I am, because you could also make the argument that half of them are sealed. So that's arguably more casual than anything you do, right? It's a matter of perspective. Like I think it's partially just dependent.
Happens. I think it's that these terms get introduced not even necessarily because of yourself, right? You hear the term casual and core gamer from a marketing standpoint, from a market standpoint. And I think that there's still a useful ability to say it's important that we make sure that we carve out room for the casual consumer and the core consumer. And I think what ends up happening is whether you're intending to or not, whether I'm intending to or not, you form your own version of what those things mean because they're such common language. And then you start, and I think a lot of people have the concept of what you're talking about. And I agree in hearing what you're saying. I think you're right. There is, just because there's value, if you chop it up, you can make anything casual or core. Like, because you can say, oh, this person's a hardcore gamer because they have 1,000 hours in this one, but they're a casual when it comes to Bloodborne because they don't have the Bloodborne Platinum, but I do. So I'm a core in that. But that's, again, it depends on what you mean. Because I even though I have the Platinum for Bloodborne, it doesn't mean I know as much about Bloodborne as they know about any one game. But like you said, a Platinum is not inherently casual usually either. So it's just a matter of how do you want to slice it. It's almost like when people say like graphs and data, it's all about how you want to manipulate them, whether consciously or subconsciously, to make them give a piece of data. You can make somebody who plays only one game seem casual or core, depending on how you cut up and try to present the data. So you're probably right there. But I think the reason that it happens in general is because you get introduced to concepts by being interested in gaming enough to want to talk about it and look up stuff about it. And you build an idea of what these things are that don't necessarily have to follow the rest of the gaming market all the way down. It's just a byproduct. Because I mean, I do know that while you're right that I'm in a minority of gaming, if you also look at places like Twitter, the idea of there being a much harder separation than what I'm even talking about between a core gamer and a casual gamer, Twitter would make you think it's way bigger of a thing and that there's way more people who do that, you know?
That's the problem inherent to even what we're doing right now. Right. And it's not an insult to us. Like, I think we're both smart enough, but I think it's true, right? Anyone who picks up a mic to do a podcast thinks their opinion is more important than somebody else's. And
that's interesting. I don't know if I actually think that. But go ahead. I want to hear what you had to say.
But like inherently it is. Like inherently we're putting that out. And I think that's up to people who want to listen or not, right? Like it was the same thing when people got up in arms when I was being negative about Horizon, and it was like, yeah, but I don't like Horizon, and you're listening to me talk about Horizon, so get off my case. Like I don't like it, and it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing on Twitter where it's like Pirate Nation thinks he's the most important person in the world. So does fucking Grums and Air. All of these people think that their opinion is the one that matters. I'm the same way. I think you're a fucking idiot if you don't like Marathon. That's just true. I think you're dumb, like objectively, and I think you don't know good games. But that's because it's my take. My take gets elevated because we sit here together for 2, 3, 4 hours a week and talk about video games and give our opinion, and people agree or disagree with it. But the biggest issue I find right now with game discourse, with all of this stuff, is that everyone values their opinion more than someone else's, so nobody is willing to hear, and I'm not even saying us, it's just my general take on the whole thing, right? Nobody is willing to hear the other side, right? And I feel like that goes into discourse in general, right? I think you're a less hardcore gamer than me. You might think I'm a less hardcore gamer than you. I might think Joe is a less hardcore gamer than me because he goes to bed at 10 o'clock p.m. I might think Kev is a lesser gamer than me because his mic cuts off, right? There are always reasons that we can have in our heads to do that. And I think when we're having the conversation about core versus hardcore, it's your opinion of what is hardcore is always going to be based on how you play games, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think it's weird that you hopped into Balatro for like 20 hours. I think that's insane.
No, I played like 80 hours of Balatro, but yeah.
It's still not enough. Just kidding.
But in comparison to you, I mean, like, again, contextually, right. I have rookie numbers to your context. But then again, you can, like you said, like I was saying earlier, in context to my 80, someone who jumped in and played 5 hours of Balatro.
Right.
I have such great, and look, I get where you're coming from, and I do think it's interesting. I guess what it is people say this in a lot of ways and in a very different meaning a lot of the time. Like this is like almost a joke towards like inclusivity and things. But what I really do mean is more so of sometimes maybe there is value, and that's where I even led to on this, and checking the way that you think about something just so you can better realize the way that you might be inadvertently assuming something that you hear someone else say or that you hear about someone else because of the way you've presumed something, because of the way you think about something. And like you said, naturally speaking, there's no way around you liking something and not liking other things. You like what you like, you don't like what you don't like. But it's about if you choose to engage in conversation about it or have strong opinions towards people who may feel differently than you, I think there's at least a value in being able to understand as best as possible maybe not the argument, though sometimes it will be an argument, but at least the world in which the people who feel the opposite way feel that way, so that you can better understand why you differ from that opinion. Whether it's right or wrong or whatever, that doesn't really matter. It's just about understanding where you fall in somewhere again, I think that only matters if you want to actively have conversation around it or belittle or boost people because of it. If all you do is play the games and you feel these ways, but they don't lead to anything, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you think someone's a more core casual gamer, but it doesn't impact anything that you do, then it doesn't really matter. But you can carry this advice to almost anything outside of even gaming, right? You can just go, well, why do I feel this way about this brand of cookies and not this brand of cookies? And I think that person who likes this brand of cookies is a fucking idiot. It's like, maybe there's a reason why you should just step back and think about it. It is weird, but it was more of an interesting thing for me to have come across, because I know that I'm different, but I also know that my behaviors have changed as a result of my reality of life, because at first when he said that, I was like, I don't ever really stick around and play a game after I'm done with it. I beat the game. I did the thing that the game wanted me to do, and I move it along. I'm not saying it never happens. I mean, I beat The Forest, a good example of something like I've beaten that multiple times to get to platinum and had a great time. But that happens less and less and less and less these days because I have less and less and less time. And I think whenever I was young, I didn't have as many games or opportunities to get games, so I replayed things because it was all I could do. Well, he has a lot of games and he can play a lot of games and he still plays the same one. So I'm like, oh, interesting. So I wonder if I would have done the same as a kid. I can't check that because I didn't have millions of games to play. I replayed the same games for as long as I could muster because I didn't have shit else to play usually until I got lucky enough to get something else. And then I was fiending for the new thing because I didn't have a wealth of options.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been someone who I'll try 15 things and only one of them hits. And that's kind of the way it goes. So then I end up committing to that one. It was that with KCD. It was like the reality of this. What we've been playing conversation today is that my most played game is not on my list and will never be on my list again. And it's kind of the exact same thing that we're talking about in this conversation, where it's like it's not worth it, and it's sad, but it's not worth it to discuss a game that I love just so that I have to feel like later I have to justify it to people. And I think that's like a microcosm of the conversation that we're kind of having, where it's like you don't have to like something and you don't have to be super hardcore into it to try and understand where someone else does. And I think with that game specifically, it's at a point where nobody is willing to do that. So I think maybe that's why I'm having this weird opinion on the whole thing, because I've been kind of dealing with the opposite end of it for a while. But I don't know. I just think there's a significant lack of let me put it this way. Everyone thinks they're the main character, and the reality is that 99.9% of us are NPCs, and we should start fucking realizing that.
Well, Chris, back onto what you're playing. Why do you think you like Windrose where you haven't others outside of it? I know that you mentioned that you like seeing the progression, and there's been a few times with the others where you're playing with us and we know too much, so we can't let you have that experience of necessarily. Well, we can, it's just hard to, definitely whenever they're multiplayer focused. Something like, as much as I love Tribes of Midgard, the whole point is that you're playing with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
You kind of can't play at the level of the groups I'm being thrown into when you're also learning. We all have to do that together, or you have to break off and do some of that on your own before you come back and play with me at the closer levels to where we're not really stepping on the idea of building up that experience. But a game like Windrose, and even a game like The Forest, and like the Survivalist that me and you were playing, is there's no competitive or time limit to it necessarily. And so you can kind of, even if you're playing with someone who knows more, you can approach it however, because there's not a pressure, right? And do you find that that's helping you get to terms with the mechanics and the ideas in a way that you're like, oh, this is cool?
Yeah, I don't, for me, it's it's just, I think we've seen it. The ones that I've tried and didn't like were games that you were so far into that it was basically oh, here's a chest of endgame gear. Now let's go have fun building stuff. And I'm like, that's not what's fun to me, And I didn't really realize it because I thought in the end, it was just survival crafting. Because for every Windrose, there's 4 other ones that I didn't like. It's not like sure. I've never, every time I play one by myself.
I can't think of the name of it right now, but the one where you're in a car. And you liked it, but you didn't stick with it.
Pacific Drive. Yeah, I didn't stick with that at all. V Rising, it was one where I liked it, you liked it, none of us cared to play it again,
Yeah, that's a weird thing is when you like a game, but it's like it doesn't mean that you like it enough to prioritize it.
Right, exactly.
Though that does add in because then it's a matter of, well, I could hop in and play a lot by myself and probably enjoy it, but we approach this as kind of a multiplayer thing. And I think both of us were doing that thing like, well, I'm trying not to play without this other person, but our schedules seldom line up. So, yeah. It's weird.
We've said that, but I think Arc Raiders proves our schedules line up more than they do. It's just we have to both want to play a game together, and I think that's the thing. But
a lot, worse. And I have to. You have to sacrifice something to do it, and that's the thing. Right, is like whenever I was playing Arc, I was sacrificing. I wasn't playing anything else, realistically, and I was sacrificing time with my kid and my wife some to play with you. You know, it's like, and it's how long can you do that too? And I guess it is like the more you like a game, the more you're willing to sacrifice little bits of other things to make more time for the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Windrose is one that, like, again, I think it's just the starting from the beginning, discovering it on my own. And I think this is less of a you problem than other people. I don't like being fucking Sherpa'd. I don't want you to tell me how to play. And I certainly don't want you to do it without me asking. And I think a lot of the games like this, especially when you're far on through, it's like you have to teach me how to play, and it's pissing me off that you're trying to teach me how to play. And I think that's the problem. Like, it just doesn't work for me. I don't want you to teach me how to play. And I don't want you to unsolicited to be like, oh, this is how you do this. And I'm like, no fucking shit. I've played video games before, you know, like,
yeah.
So I think that's part of it is like learning it on my own. There's a sense of like, oh, okay, I figured this out. Oh, this is how you do this. Oh shit, I can do this to my boat. And I've gone, you know, my big thing the other day was I'm not hopping off until I build a ship. And I didn't.
Yeah.
And it was extremely satisfying to right at the end be like, you know, hit K and then this giant pirate ship pops out. And it's like, this is cool as shit. Like, this was really cool that I got here, whether it's on my own or with you. It's like we got here and built this ship and got to this point in the game. So to me, it's the discovery. To me, it's the figuring out. It's the watching things build up. It's going from, especially in Windrose, it's going from a tent to a bed that's in this like kind of awning where like it has a roof. So the game lets you put a bed there, but it's not a house. And then you go from that to like, oh, I've got this big house I've got a room for all my chests. And this room is, you know, the iron room, and this room's, you know, I like getting to those points. And I think I like doing them either on my own or discovering them with someone else. You know, you know me, you know how I get when people Sherpa me sometimes. I'm not an asshole about it. It just pisses me off. So
no, I've learned that lesson long ago. And thankfully, indirectly for the most part, like, you know, I got to see someone else Sherping you and like hardcore Sherping you when you weren't asking for it, and I got to see the repercussions of it. So I feel well in a similar vein of something that I'm kind of just exploring. It's a game I've never played before, but it's in a genre I like, in a series I even like. I beat Pokemon Legends ZA. So I haven't been playing it these past 2 weeks. I don't know if I'd beaten it by the time we recorded last week. I think I beat it 2 days after. Great game. Enjoyed it. There's problems, but there's good things about it too. And whenever I was trying to figure out what I wanted to start playing next, I wanted to do something quite a bit different because of what else I was playing simultaneously alongside this game. So I started Metroid Samus Returns, which is a 3DS remake of Metroid 2. And the game is good. I'm enjoying it a lot. But Metroid, I guess what I've kind of realized as I've been playing this is like, even though a lot of the times we call games Metroidvanias, and this is 100% still true, Metroid Samus Returns has a lot of the things that those games have in them. Like, there is similarities. But I think a lot more often than not, I think more games pull from the Castlevania side of this idea than the Metroid side. And so I think what playing this is making me realize is that this is a really good game. I'm enjoying it. I am very likely going to beat it. I think I'm pretty far in it right now. But its take on all of it is like the lesser preferred version for me, and I'm realizing that I like the Castlevania side of the split more. And I do tend to notice that most Metroidvanias that I end up really loving are the ones that are more Castlevania-like. Even when it comes down to what weapons and stuff you use, I tend to like melee weapons more than the guns. And a lot of it is because like this game has the same problem that I actually had with Metroid Dread, which is that when there's a gun involved, you have to contend with how do you move without having, the aiming be a big part of it, because you don't always need to aim. But then how do you aim? And does it feel good or does it feel clunky? And I've come to grips with it in Samus Returns, and I started to come to grips with it in Dread before I stopped playing Dread forever ago. But in this one, whenever it comes time for you to want to shoot in a way that you have to aim, like you're not just shooting directly forward, you have to hold one of the trigger buttons and then you stop moving and then you have to aim around. And it just feels clunky. And I don't even mean in the way that like Resident Evil 4, when you go to aim, you stop moving. That you could say feels dated in comparison to like modern game design, but it feels fine within the context of a game that was designed around it. Whereas in this, I've yet to have it not really feel clunky. There's times where I'm like, this just doesn't feel intuitive enough. Whereas I think in Resident Evil, it does. And a lot of that I think is camera perspective. So I'm really enjoying the game. And I love playing it on this little thing because I'm running it at 60 frames per second. I installed the texture pack, so it just looks super clean. It looks 1080p, so it looks a lot like Metroid Dread, but just it's a 3DS game. and I still continue to love exactly what I got this thing for, and why I still say that I think second screen gaming, or like a game that allows use of a second screen, could be so cool. I fucking love being able to see the map at all times on the bottom screen and interact with certain things on the bottom touch screen without it taking up any room on the front screen, like on the main screen. Like I guess it solves the UI problem on your primary screen while still having the information quickly accessible so that it's easily able to be gotten to. And like some games do this in interesting ways, like Dead Space makes it diegetic, where like you only see the UI when you do certain things because it's part of the world, because there's a lot of digital stuff. So like put your health on your back, and your ammo is like a holographic projection above your gun. Like all those things are cool, and I really like that. But I think it's cool when a game doesn't automatically have that baked in as an easy thing to do, that you just have this second thing. Like even in Pokemon, like 3DS Pokemon games, I like being able to move the Pokemon and stuff around on the bottom screen easily and have quick access to, you want to go to your inventory, but now I don't have to hit start, down, A. I can just hit the button that says inventory on the bottom screen. It's like, it totally is just like a bougie thing, but it feels so good to have this little. It's like when people were talking about loading times on PS5, right? It's like you loading times used to be a pain point that you just got used to, but then you had this new thing, and you're like, this feels like a whole, like this extra 20 seconds I got back from not having to do the loading screen is awesome. And that's how I feel about here. Like the extra 3 seconds I got back without having to navigate the menu to get to where I wanted to be within it is great. And then we've seen small examples of that, like on PlayStation, where like Days Gone had the swipe up on the touchpad to go to the map, swipe down to go to your inventory. That way you can do the same thing. You're gesturing to it. I like that a lot. That stuff's cool. So
yeah.
But yeah, Samus Returns. It's a really good remake. Good for Mercury Steam. Thinking about the fact that they got shit on for Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, and then came back around to being like, people seem to enjoy them as the Metroid developer for the 2D games. That's cool. It's good to see. I like it. But Chris, you have a game on your list that surprises me, and I realize you've been playing on your PC a lot lately. Clearly.
Yeah, so spoilers, I haven't turned on my PS5 in almost 2 weeks.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, it's nice. So yeah,
KOTOR.
KOTOR.
Yeah, because you could have been playing the other game on PS3.
Oh yeah, I could have. I could have.
But yeah, KOTOR. So I don't feel like this is your first dance with this game.
No, it's my first dance with the game in a way that it A, works, and B, feels like the way the developers intended you to play it. I played on phone. I got like I went farther than normal. And for me, it just felt like, you're just, it's funny because it kind of works the same way, but it's the typical phone, like you touch there and you go there and you touch and do actions. So it wasn't that engaging.
I don't like that. Yeah.
And yeah, I've just been I've always wanted to get through it. Mass Effect is one of my favorite series. So I love BioWare, and those guys are the BioWare, before the ship of Theseus took over there. But yeah, so it's fun. I'm not, again, there are a couple games on my list where it's because I just wanted to talk about something other than something else. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's funny because I know this game feels like it has a morality system, and I've heard great things about the morality system, but every time I've had the opportunity to be evil, it's just, and again, this is Star Wars, so I don't really know what I expected, but it's like cartoonishly evil.
Also,
where like it's almost,
first of all, I'm going to throw it out there. KOTOR 1, this goes back down to writing. I say this with love because BioWare is a good developer. I'm not trying to talk shit about them, but I think the problem with things like morality systems, first and foremost, I think we have to put it out there. You're playing a 25-year-old morality system, or a 23-year-old morality system. They were pretty new in gaming to begin with. They're a little hard to hardcore judge. But even within that, KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, KOTOR 1 may actually be the better game. It's hard to say, but I'll at least say this. The way they handle all of those things in KOTOR 2 are a lot better to me, and a lot of that is due to the writing. And that's because Obsidian have a long history, even though, again, Ship of Theseus take over for them eventually too. Obsidian have a long history of continuously getting very good writers who I think joined them because they were fans of the way Obsidian wrote games to begin with. And so they've done a really good job of mostly being able to hold on to the fact that Obsidian is known for great writing, definitely character writing. And what is a morality system if not character moments that you're trying to dramatize to a choice, and you're doing it into a normally a why can I not think of the word right now? Only two choices. Why can't I think of it, Chris?
Good and evil.
Not only, but
binary
there's
system.
only two options. Binary. Thank you. You're breaking it down into binary. I think that makes those things hard. But a great example of that is like Infamous 2 and Infamous Second Son, where it's like you're doing the same thing, but the writing changes how you feel about how this is. And there's not a time realistically in Infamous 2 where I feel like the dichotomy between the two that they're clearly trying to introduce, and the binary is stupid and cartoonish. And then there's times that almost every time that you're being asked to be evil, if you want to be evil with Delson, it feels like someone was just like, what if he was just cartoonishly? What if he just did the most evil thing that you could think of that's not even like hardcore evil? It's just like he's kind of a dick. So I'm with you. And it's got a rough morality system. Agreed.
Well, that's it's not like, because there's a difference between, I think, being an asshole and being cartoonish, where it's like there was one scenario in the beginning of the game where I walked in and I killed a bunch of Sith, and then this guy was like, oh, like, I'll help you, thanks for helping us, like, we'll clear the bodies so it looks like they died elsewhere. And then you have the options to be like, okay, cool, thank you, like, I'm glad I could help, or give me all your money and I'll fucking kill you. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, this is not intelligent.
It's evil to no obvious use.
Right. To me, like, as dumb as it sounds, like, to me, the best way that could have gone is for you to just be like, not say a word and just leave. And then, okay, you get asshole points for that. But no, it's like, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking head and rip out your guts. It's like, what are we talking about? Like, you saved them.
Well, and this is an interesting thing around like the idea of evil characters in writing. And we've become pretty obsessed recently since post Thanos, as I say, with having I don't necessarily if I want to say a redeeming villain, but a villain where you have to fully understand why they're doing what they're doing, to a point where you could almost see yourself making the same decision. But I don't really love that, because like I think about like they tried making like Maleficent into like a oh, I understand where she's coming from. And I always thought that was so unnecessary because they made all these movies to try and reframe why she does what she does as if she was cartoonishly evil before. But she wasn't. She was evil because she had a goal in mind, which was wanting to do this specific thing. And the only way she could keep up this thing that she wanted to do was to do this other thing. It's kind of like Mother Gothel and Tangled, where it's like, yeah, that's an evil thing to do, but at least it's to a goal. It is, hey, I have an obsession with looking young, and the only way for me to do it, as I've found, and to do it effectively, is to continue to treat this girl with this magical hair in a way to where I can reap the benefit without her knowing. It's evil, but you understand why they'd come to that because it's like, oh, well, there's an end to it. There's a goal. There's an end to the mean of why you chose to do this. And then in times like that, it's like, okay, to what degree? So that I can buy a drink? Like, what am I going to do with this money I get? This isn't even evil to any benefit, like to any real benefit.
It's just evil to be mean, which is not evil. It's mean. There's difference, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't know.
Well, it's like the example of like the best example I can think of is it's like it would be me kicking out someone for being too loud versus me kicking out someone for being black. One of those is mean. One of those is evil. Like, strong word, but you know what I mean. Like, and that's kind of what it felt like it boiled down to here. Where it
fair
was
enough.
Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
You're being insane. But yeah, I like KOTOR. It's cool. Like I would like to finish it to see it. But it's funny because it is also one of these things where I'm like, this is old, bro.
It's real old.
Dude,
and I think
the way
it's
you
old
control,
in a way where it's almost hard to, like, you know, sometimes a game's old and you're like, well, this is old, but I can see how this would be fire in 2001. And then I think that game's hitting a point where it's like, bro, this is old and I don't even know if I played this in 2001 if I'd have thought it was good. Like, of course you probably would have, but it gets harder to see it for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I just think there's some stuff that's archaic. Like, I think the way you move is WASDZXC. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's fucking insane. And like, it's weird because like the mouse kind of moves your camera, but it also like doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. But then it doesn't have controller support. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, I was saying to Joe yesterday, I'm like, I think I should just break out my Xbox and play it on my TV. Like that might be easier. But
that's one of those times where I used to hate that whenever games would be coming out on console. This happened all the way through to Diablo 3. This is not the first time I've complained about this. I never understand when you have a PC version of a game that has a console port that you had to figure out controller support for, and you didn't add it into the computer version. Why?
Yeah, for what? For what reason? What was that reason?
Bro, you did the work. Just put it on the fucking PC version.
Just give it to put it on the PC.
Look, for KOTOR, fine. Games could technically be updated on PC, but that wasn't normal practice. But for Diablo 3, bro, games getting updated was normal by 2011 or whatever, 12, whenever that game came out. And you couldn't go, hey, we made a PS3 360 version of this game that works entirely with controller support. Can we scooch this over to the PC version so people who play on PC who want the controller support can just play that way? Nope. Go fuck
or just
yourself.
Let me mod it. Like, mod's not the right word, but let me like change the controls. It's like, it's archaic even in small ways where it's like, you know, the game came out so long ago they probably hadn't even thought of this stuff, but like I'm playing on a curved ultra wide monitor and I can't, it's stretched out. No, I can fill the screen, but it's a problem because it looks awful.
Well, because you're only filling the screen by way of stretching the whole image instead of it being,
But so the point I was trying to make was that you can't take it out of full screen as far as I can tell. Like I have no problem playing it in a window at all.
Oh, it doesn't have windowed mode. Yeah, there's a lot of games.
No, you can't do that. So it's like, what are we doing? It only goes up to like, I think 1080 or 720p. Again, I have a great computer. It can run better than that. So it's a weird game, but so far I'm into it. It's exactly what I want from Star Wars. Leave the fucking Skywalkers out of it.
Yeah. I always like the stuff going back into the Old Republic because you are fully separated from them and you get to see all this cool shit that leads to why other things are happening. It's cool because it's like a touchstone to things that get referenced in the Skywalker movies, and those are cool. But it's cool to be able to just explore the world without having to be like, and Darth Vader's going to show up because Star Wars doesn't know how to Star Wars without Darth Vader.
Yeah, and the problem is they've never made a cool villain outside of him. But I shouldn't say that. Don't yell at me. I don't follow Star Wars.
Well, ironically, you're playing games that notably are considered to have really good villains that are not Darth Vader.
There you go. So we'll try it. Anyway, I don't have much to say about KOTOR.
That's cool. I'm going to scooch over real quick. I beat Resident Evil 8 in VR. First of all,
crazy.
Game bangs. The game is very good. And I know that I basically said as much last week, but dude, the game is great. And it's so fun. Like, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is that for as much as it is clearly trying to be like, hey, look how much we're referencing Resident Evil 4, not only like tonally and stylistically and gameplay wise, it was interesting to me that even though they did that, there's still ultimately a lot less combat overall than Resident Evil 4. Because I have a friend who's playing Resident Evil 4 right now, and I was like, as I was working my way through 8 and thinking about how much it reminded me of 4, one part that didn't is that 4 may still be an action game that heavily wears horror inspiration, whereas 5 and 6 are just much more willing to just be action games that occasionally want you to think that they might have horror relations. 4 has a lot of combat. Like, you're constantly shooting people, and I haven't even played the remake, and I'm sure the remake, if I'm being honest, I'm sure the remake actually adds a little bit more to what was already there in terms of quantity of people that you fight. 4 is not against having you fight large groups of people often. 8 has like one moment where the game is like, you're going to juggle multiple enemies at once. And I felt like a goddamn action hero in the moment that I was doing it, definitely in VR. It was super sick, dude. I'm playing through that section and, there's like 50 to 100 of these things coming at me. And I'm like, okay, so I'm over here. Again, VR, so I don't know what any of my things are. You know what the reload is like. So I have one gun pulled out, and I actually pulled the one out of my jacket pocket because you get to choose where you want them on your body. So I pulled the one of my jacket pocket out. It was a pistol, and I was popping these dudes in the head and trying to get them down. And there's like a ton of them coming beside me. And so I reach over with my other hand and pull out my gun from my holster and start like shooting them like dual style, and then I run out of ammo in the first one that I pulled out, so I chunk it to the side, throw this one away, reach behind me, pull out a shotgun, and just start shooting. Because at no point I love the lack of HUD, because I didn't know I was out of ammo until I heard a click and nothing happened. And you have that moment of like, I've got to pivot.
Oh shit.
And it makes you have that like, this is so cool, because it's probably the most, people use this word all the time, it's probably the most immersed in a game I've ever been. And prior to that, it would have been Resident Evil 7 VR. Whenever she stabs you in the hand at the beginning of the game, I like physically jumped hard because I hadn't played enough VR. I wasn't ready for it, and I remember being like, "Bro, what?" And I thought like my hand hurt for like a split second because my body was like, "You saw a knife come in your hand." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh no, it didn't." But yeah, dude, the game is so good.
Yeah, how'd you like? So you've now played the section I've been talking about for years. Was I right? It's fucking terrifying that one.
Yeah, dude. The basement.
No, when you have to hide under the bed, or you can hide under. Is that in the basement? I don't remember.
Yes. Oh, dude, hiding under the bed in VR was fucking crazy. I just want to throw that out there because I could like peek my head out as it's coming through the door, and I'm like, what the fuck? That was something else. I loved how often the game kind of shook up what it wanted to do as you went to area. That was really neat. I think probably the best thing about 8 is that it has variety in a way that no other Resident Evil game does.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But like 7 has variety, but usually it's like 1 to 2 things. Like you're gonna have one form and it's gonna lean on the other. Because I'd say like in many ways 4 is like the inverse of 7. 4 is like a lot of high action moments and then some slow moments that make you go, oh my god, this is creepy. 7 is mostly low action moments but super tense and scary, but then you have some action scenes towards the end. It was cool that this one kind of went like, I don't want to say too much because it's just what it is, but I thought it was neat that the game was like, we're going to do like a microcosm of 7 here. When we get here, we're going to do like our take on a PT style experience. When we get here, it's going to be like a little different like adventure around the thing, and it suddenly becomes like an environmental puzzle solving section when you're in the part with the water.
Yeah,
I thought that was neat and such a big change of pace. I thought that was cool. And then you get to that section that I was talking about where you have the hundreds of things coming at you, and then you go to the final place before the real finale, and that was a lot different. I was like, this is cool. This is neat seeing how often the game's willing to kind of change hats. And I think I'll probably miss that a little bit in 4 VR and in 9, where it's like, oh, and I know 9 does at least try to kind of like dichotomize them, where you have like the sections with
Grace.
I can't think of her name right now, Grace, and then the sections with Leon.
Yeah,
but it's really cool.
It's like I said to you. I think 9 is the weakest of the 7, 8, 9 trilogy. And part of me wants to say 8 is the best one. I know that's a controversial take, but I think 8 is very good. And
I don't know if I can say
more
yet.
Consistently fun than 7.
Yeah, I think that right now I'm too soon. Right, that's why I said. Somebody asked me like, "Well, do you like 8 more than 7?" I was like, I don't think I can fairly say that right now. There's recency bias. There's all sorts of things. I'll need to wait a little bit, and it doesn't. I also played Resident Evil 7 in VR and on flat screen. I could say this with certainty: Resident Evil 8 is a far better VR experience. For multitude reasons, primarily that you have hand control instead of playing in VR, but using a controller, like a traditional controller anyway. It's cool. It's novel. It's not as good as having your hands and interacting in the game in that way. So there's that. But I might play RE8 again in flat screen eventually, because as one of our listeners, Poop Happens, messaged me on PlayStation about, last episode we were talking about, wouldn't it be cool to platinum the game in VR? He brought to my attention something that as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, you're right. I never heard a single trophy ping. When you play that game in VR, the game does not tell you. You do not earn trophies. You cannot platinum Resident Evil 8 in VR if you wanted to.
You can't platinum it, or you won't know you can't platinumed it? You
can't earn a trophy at all in VR.
And
so if you go look right now at my Resident Evil 8, I've basically not played the game.
That's crazy to me that they did that. Why would they do that?
I don't know, because I'm pretty sure in 7 you got trophies. Hard for me to say at this point, but yeah, look, I have 30 hours in Resident Evil Village, 0 trophies. And that 30 hours is a little off. One night I didn't realize I didn't turn my VR and PlayStation off the right way. And so it just 8 hours of that 30 hours is just maybe a little bit more than 8 is just it running. I'd say it took me about 18 to 20 hours to beat, because I was being very thorough with my playing and having a good time. So yeah, that's been an interesting thing to pull around from. But 8 is very good. I'm so glad I got around to it. And in a way, it's kind of like reinvigorated my excitement for Resident Evil as a series, because I remember when they showed 9's trailer, I just really wasn't that hyped. And I think it's just because I had like not been playing Resident Evil, and it's easier to kind of be like, Resident Evil's good, but now I'll play this and it's so fun, it's so good, and then I think back to all the other Resident Evils that I've loved and be like, I do like Resident Evil. Why was I not excited for 9?
Yeah, Resident Evil bangs, man. Great games.
Resident Evil is so good. Talk to me real quick while we're on the conversation around Capcom. Talk to me about a game that I'm excited to play. I've heard a lot of good things about, and I think I even heard you say that you thought it was good. That doesn't mean you beat it. How are you feeling about Pragmata?
I like the gameplay of Pragmata a lot. I think it's really fun. I think the system is unique. I think like hacking the enemies to make them a little squishier and easier to kill is really cool. So I think they've nailed it there. They've nailed some of the story stuff so far, some of the character stuff so far. I will say this is the main reason it's on my list. I don't have a ton more to say. I hope that they justify Diana a little more in the game. And I don't know if it's just because like I'm not a dad or whatever it is, But like the whole time I've played so far, I like the character. I think she's cool. I don't think there's anything like I don't want this to sound like the Twitter uproar. Like it's not like I'm saying if you like the game you're a fucking pedophile or any of that. Like I don't think it's gooner, pedo bait or whatever. The whole time I've been playing it, I don't understand why she's a child. And I hope they justify that at some point because, and maybe again, I'm early, so they probably do. But to me, so far, it seems like a choice they made to give it emotionality, which is totally cool and totally fine. But again, it's a robot, so why is it designed like a 7-year-old girl?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Again, like I don't mind it either. Like again, there's a lot of stuff that comes with it, right? Like, oh, she's riding on your back and all this kind of stuff. Like that all makes sense to me. But why does a robot act like a child? I don't understand that. Yeah. Maybe I'm crazy, but like I don't understand why a robot is running around acting like a kid. Like it really just doesn't make sense.
A lot of it will come down to what the story is trying to say, and what it's trying to go for. Because because I'm not. I mean, maybe this is even what it is. I could see there being a thing about like basically making you have that thought process. Because I think almost anybody would be like, it's a robot. Why did it have to be a kid? I think that conversation or that thought has at least entered someone's mind of like, what? But so you get this idea around it, but if it's going to be one of those games, and in a way I hope it's not, because this is at this point it's become such commonplace in storytelling, whereas like one of the first games that I think kind of did this really well, not necessarily through the lens of a robot but through something else, was the original Nier. But this idea of the story could just be trying to go like, you have the idea that this robot can't be a kid, can't be human, but it could be by the end of the game it's about like, what is life? It's a kid because it's going to grow and it's experiencing, and it's the point of it is about how this robot will continue on to become like a, I won't say a human, but it'll be alive in a way that we tend not to think robots are alive. You know what I mean? And that might be prescient around the AI conversation right now.
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting to find out, oh, these robots grow up and the way that they've been designed, okay, they become adults. Like I'm waiting to hear that, because again, like I don't feel weird about it in the typical like, oh, it's for gooners who want to, who like lolly and jerk off the kids. Like I've
seen some of the conversation on Twitter around that, and it does not make sense to me.
No, it's just, to me, it's like when that conversation is going around, and then to me there's no justification yet, I look at it and I go, what was the reason? Like, was that the reason? I don't think so. I'm not insane.
No, but I think probably the one that people who don't know yet would fall on, and what I would probably read it as, is they're trying to pull on the heartstrings of people who do have that like sense of protection for children, or they have kids of their own and they're able to kind of project their child onto Diana to some degree, and so you get fatherly instincts, or like even if it's not fatherly in that sense, I think generally speaking, like, right, Chris, if you had a kid come up to you who is experiencing some kind of trouble, you'd be a lot more likely to want to do something for them than you would an adult who comes up and just says, hey, I'm having this kind of problem, right? Like we have a natural tendency to want to help children. And so from a marketing standpoint, I can see that. I mean, that's a big reason as to why the original Nier in America had a dad instead of her brother. It was the dad because they thought that Americans, for sure, or Westerners, would have a better connection with a father-daughter relationship than a brother-sister one, which...
I don't know about that.
I mean, I guess it worked because I did like the original. Daddy Nier was a lot stronger of a thing for me than Brother Nier. They're both fantastic. It's a minuscule difference, but it's a difference.
Yeah.
All the same.
Again, I do very much wonder if my feelings on it are because I don't have kids or any of that.
Yeah.
I do know that Kev doesn't have kids, and he was saying when we were playing Marathon that he beat it and he was crying. So whatever, pussy.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing though too. You've seen this conversation on Twitter because you're on Twitter a lot, and so even if you didn't want to, I think that that thought creeps into your head more quickly because you've seen people questioning. You've seen people basically saying that it could be this, or this. People have given you reason to doubt your natural stance on why you think it would be that way. You know what I mean? You've lost the ability to just go, let it tell me what's going to happen and why this is the case. Now it's harder to go, please don't be something weird and creepy.
Exactly. I read it as just emotional manipulation. That was how I read it when I played it. But to me, it's just I wanted to justify it because, again, it doesn't make sense that you would make a child robot to me. So, but again, the game is great. You're going to really like it. I really like it. I'll get back to it at some point. It's a good game. I do recommend you play it if you're into like the third person shooter, the hacking. If all that looks good to you, get on the horse.
Well, I'll tell you, that will be the game that I start playing next after I get through playing. At least right now, I feel like there's no reason I can see myself jumping off of it. But the absolute honker of a game that KCD2 is, I do not know how many gameplay hours I have in it at this point. I would imagine that I'm approaching at the very minimum 15, which is not bad.
Okay, so you barely started.
Maybe a little longer. At max 20, but I don't know. It's hard to get a feel for how long you've been playing something, definitely in a world like that. And even more importantly, my progression's been a little stunted because much like you were talking about with losing progression in Windrose, I was losing progression in this game because this game's a lot different in the way that it approaches things, and not in a bad way at all. Just you have to learn what the game's asking of you, and then you can work within its frame a lot better. Even then, I would say that there are things that one of the biggest problems I had, and that Chris kind of came in and started helping me a bit. I was about to look up a video on my own anyway of it, because I had started prior to all the stuff that happened previously around my family and personal stuff that happened. I'd started the game on a Friday and played through the tutorial and went through the big battle with the guy at the beginning, Sir Hans, that like teaches you the combats and like the tricks around it. Because there's the immediate tutorial where you have the combat but you don't understand it, and then there's a tutorial of a one-on-one with Sir Hans where you're learning why the things are the way they are and how you're supposed to interact with the game's gameplay mechanics or combat mechanics. And then I took like a month and a half break from the game and I came back into it. And it's kind of like Chris said, I've played a game before. It's not hard to just jump back into the game and be able to play it, but to jump back into the game and then be met with a moment of combat and play it well is a different story when I don't remember what it was trying to tell me. I've played enough first-person games where you have weapons to know that you hold L2 and you'll block and you swing with R2, but what are the finer points of it? And this game has like this, I don't want to call it, I never played For Honor, but it's got like a For Honor-esque, I would say, from what I understand about For Honor, like you're positioning the blade in relation to other people with the right analog stick while you're doing combat, which is very unique and novel, but it can be confusing. And even Chris, after talking to you and playing more of the game and doing a much better job, there's been a few times where I've been killed because of things that I just have not been able to figure out what I've done wrong yet. And I'm not saying I'm not doing something wrong. I haven't figured out what I've done wrong. And it's like sometimes someone will swing and you'll see like the shield on board and I'll go to block it. And then the next time that they go to swing, it'll be like a red shield. And I don't know.
Dodge.
That's what I was about to ask and I haven't, because of how the camera, because of the stick combat goes, I find it difficult to dodge right now because it's hard to separate yourself from someone because when you go into combat, the camera tries to lock on whoever it's putting the cursor onto so that as you're moving around, because you can't really control the camera because you have to break past the combat compass before you can start really controlling the camera in that game. And so
you just have to hit circle and you dodge.
That's what I was about to say. There must be a button prompt that I'm missing within that. So thank you. That might be all it is. I'll try that next time I go.
You're welcome.
I was going to look it up, but I stopped playing late last night after I got killed from something like by that. And I was like, I'll figure it out tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've killed like 50. I've killed like 30 people since we and you have last talked without an issue. But every now and then I've had those like, what is happening here?
It was funny because you were messaging me while we were playing Marathon, and it genuinely stressed me out so much that I was like, I have to stop. I have to go help him because I can't let KCD2 die because he doesn't know how to play the fucking game.
I don't think that would have happened. I was just going to restart the game, but I will tell you, restarting a game can take the wind out of your sails. And I really did not want to play all the same shit I'd already played. Because here's the thing. I'm not in it enough storyline wise to be able to tell anybody that the story is fantastic, the main story. What I can tell you is that things that the main storyline introduces you to that you can later go back and interact with people wise, kind of like what I say Skyrim did really well, right? It's going to introduce you to people that have deeper storylines if you want to go and seek them out. I did a side quest recently that I thought was pretty neat in the way that they chose to go about it. Not perfect. I mean, it's a game at the end of the day, but it's the side quest. Chris, I'm sure I don't know. Did you do a lot of the side quests in that game?
I 100% of the game.
Okay, so the side quest in where Bojana's daughter. She asks you to go see if you can find her because she's been gone for a while.
Yeah,
the culmination of that whole quest I thought was pretty neat. It wasn't like Bloody Baron level in terms of like it's still a little clumsy. It's still a little clumsy because it's a video game and it's trying to also give you agency to make way more choices than The Witcher really does, if we're being honest.
For sure.
And within that, it feels a little more clunky. But once you kind of go, well, I'm buying into the fact that this is just part of how this game has to operate. I thought that was a really pretty well done story, and the way that it ends and the way you have to go about it. I was like, this is neat. And it does help give the world a sense of more, a better sense of being alive, which is good for open world games, because I think the worst thing open world games can do is make themselves not feel alive. And this game still has some of the problems I have with big open world games, like the contriteness of just how often you run across things when you're on the road just for the sake of them being able to say something happened. But all it is always a beggar coming up to you and asking you for money, or a dude getting robbed, or a group of people at a camp. That's always what it is. Every fucking time. And it starts to actually do the opposite of what it's trying to do, at least in the opening map thing, to where I've seen those often enough that now they're just annoying. They're just in my way, and they're not even adding anything to the uniqueness anymore. This is not a unique problem to this. Red Dead Redemption 2 has the exact same problem. The longer you play it, the more you start to kind of grind against these, what do they even call them? Like dynamic events. They're not really all that dynamic. In a way, I'd rather have Skyrim's thing where you just fucking walk around and you just, I kind of hate the framing that there's somebody robbing somebody, because it's the same every time. I would much rather it be I'm just walking through the forest and there happens to be someone else walking through the forest and he sees me and he doesn't like me, so he attacks me. The game already sets up that there's bandits in the forest. I don't need you to give me a reason past that. Just have the bandit be in the forest. I'll fight him.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. I've been enjoying the game though a lot. It's interesting how it works. I have been spending time trying to work on my craftsmanship, which has been really interesting. But one of the things that happens in a game like this, Chris, is that the systems are pretty wide. But I think I have accidentally discovered, and I know that there's no way I'm the first person to have discovered this. But I realized whenever I was blacksmithing and sharpening an axe that I had that needed to be sharpened. And then I realized that while sharpening, I got like a skill point. And I was like, oh, cool. So sharpening does count as craftsmanship. Neat. But then I was like, oh, wait, but you can fail at sharpening. And I was like, okay, so does failing at sharpening make the blade dull? And it does. It puts your quality down to 0, or your remaining. So I was like, can I just keep sharpening this axe and then dulling it down, and then sharpening this axe and dulling it down? And lo and behold, you absolutely can. I gained like 2 craftsmanship levels last night before I went to bed, just seeing if it would let me abuse it that way. And it did. And I don't think that that's a hit against the game. I kind of like that I have the level of control to push the game's boundaries enough to see what I can do. So we'll see. I also accidentally stumbled into being over encumbered and walking around because I just want. You need money in the beginning of the game. So whenever I'm killing people, I'm looting everything, and I will fucking slow walk my ass back to town if I have to do it. I don't care.
Oh my god!
But I realized in doing that yesterday, which is what made me think about the axe thing, I was like, wait a minute. Whenever you're walking around over encumbered, you slowly gain strength because you're having to carry this extra weight. And so I'm not going to do this, but I realized that there's probably a really high chance that I could slap a rubber band onto one of the analog sticks and pull it down, encumber myself, and just walk around in the circle while not even playing the game, and come back and have yoked strength. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to fuck the game up.
It's not necessary. That's the thing. Like, you could do it, and it wouldn't. I don't know that it would help you all that much. You just get a bunch of skill points. But I did blacksmith and alchemy. That was what I kind of got up to. I loved doing the blacksmithing, dude. Have you actually blacksmithed or just sharpened?
No,
Okay.
I've actually,
I think
because
it's
I'm
so
doing
fun.
the story. I'm doing the story bit where I went to work with the blacksmith and
Gotcha.
not the miller.
Yeah. I love the just like hitting it and like seeing it come through, and then especially when you're farther down and you get like, oh, this is Henry quality, and you're like, hell fucking yeah, it's Henry quality, baby, let's go.
I think the blacksmithing in particular works because of Henry's backstory.
Mhm.
I really buy into it a bit more, but
Yeah.
it's in general, the game does tell you that Henry's not afraid to work. So I'm sure I'd be able to buy into the Miller work as well. What has been kind of interesting is I remember kind of getting annoyed in the long run with Ghost of Yote's blacksmithing minigame for the story purposes. And I know why they're doing it. And her father, and in a way, Atsu and Henry have some similarities. But I think the problem is that they didn't really fully dive into it or make it something that you could continually work with in the game, because at the end of the day, Ghost of Yote is not really an RPG. And so I found myself getting annoyed with it making me do it in that game eventually. It's not a big deal to like hyper criticize, which is why you probably never heard me actually say anything about it until now where I'm comparing it to something. But it's funny that they're similar, but this game goes the extra mile. It's like, no, you have to heat it. If you let it go too long without getting work done, you have to reheat it. You have to shape it. You have to flip the blade. If you're not careful with your strikes, you can be inefficient with your stamina and things like that. And I do like how much this game is like, if you're gonna blacksmith, you're gonna fucking blacksmith. Like, you're just going to do the thing. And even small things that I really like, and other games do this, so not to overly praise or criticize even by saying other games do it. I like little things like, oh, you have a thing that's a fragment of the Bible, and here it takes multiple hours of you reading this for you to get the skill. So you have to say that you're going to read the book, then you have to set the hours in which you're going to do so, and you have to read the book for in game time for you to learn the stuff from it. And I'm like, that's cool. And that there's benefits from, like, if you're sitting while you're doing that, you read quicker.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know, it's small things. I will tell you something that's been a little disappointing is I accidentally killed a bunny in an area where you're not supposed to in the game. It's like poaching is a thing. And so I poached primarily to see what would happen. Nothing has happened.
You haven't got caught.
Oh, and that's what I'm like, nothing has happened. I've sold the fucking meat and the fur. So clearly I did it. I'm not sure what's happening, but I thought it was interesting. I'm like, this is a novel idea, but I'm curious to see if there's actual real consequences, or if this is, I don't even mean this as a hit. Is this one of those things where it's an attempt to make the game seem deeper, but it's really just like one of those, like, it's a mile wide but an inch deep kind of thing? And I think clearly the game's not that, but this instance could still be that. Like, eventually the game is not Crimson Desert. It's not trying to make me believe that I can do literally everything. There are limits. I'm just curious as to what those limits are. So I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time with the stories and the characters. I'm curious to see how long that goes in a way that I'm like actively excited about it. But right now I'm actively excited to turn it on and keep playing it, which is all you really want. You know what I mean?
It's all I wanted. Yeah. I'm glad you're playing it and enjoying it.
Yeah. The save system is taking some getting used to as well. Little things like, again, it's kind of cool that like your boots wear down as you walk. But then here's the thing, like when you wear certain armor, so like Chris, there's a story that I guess I got because you got the physical version and it's baked in as a pre-order bonus. I'm actually not sure, but the thing is called the Lion's Crest.
Yep.
And I went and found all the pieces of this dude's armor. So I'm rocking like a decent set of armor, but the legs that he has for his armor replace your boots. But that means my leg armor is getting fucked up by just walking. And I don't love that. I know it's part of the thing, but now it's like I feel like the game is motivating me to actually swap to a different outfit whenever I'm walking so that I don't hurt my armor. But then when you get into combat, you can't change outfits. You can't change pieces at all. And I get why you can't do those things in real time. Like, you know, you can't put a bandage on in combat because you can't heal mid-combat. You have to get done because even though you're doing it in the menu, the game is implying that you're doing it in real game time. So you can't put a bandage on while someone's swinging at you. It just doesn't make sense. But then that makes it hard because I'm like, damn, I know that it says I have to buy into this game's version of I got to wear my metal armor out by walking. It's just kind of annoying because sometimes I'll be exploring a lot, forget that my armor is broken down, and if it's broken down for too long, you lose quality.
Yes, you do.
So it's been an interesting game. I quite enjoy it.
Like I said, hardcore adventure.
That said, Max Payne 3, you've played this game before. It's a banging game. It's, arguably, I think Max Payne 3 is the best mechanically. It's the best game that I think from a combat standpoint, it's the best game Rockstar has put out.
Yeah, I could see that. No, Max Payne 3 is a lot of fun. I'm on chapter 3 now. So not crazy far, but the combat is just the combat's so cool. It still holds up really well, which I'm impressed by. I just remember wanting to play it because the story of that game is so brutal.
Oh yeah,
for really no good reason, but still like kind of nuts. So yeah, it's cool. I like seeing it and going through all that stuff. So again, it was really just me wanting to give it another go. It's been a long time since I played it.
Are you playing on PC?
Yeah. So that actually is really cool because it does support Ultra Ride pretty well. And then it's like I texted my brother a picture. I'm like, I don't think they ever expected it to look like this.
Yeah, it's kind of cool too because that was not far from the era of Rockstar not really being known for porting their games to PC, and even if they did, they weren't great ports. Like Grand Theft Auto 4 is not a great PC port.
No, it's not. The complete edition is better, but the original one sucked. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it came later. I assume it did.
PC gamers got to start buying more microtransactions, and you'll get your games on day and date.
So May 15th for 360 PS3, May 29th for PC. It was like a very close.
Yeah, 2 weeks isn't bad.
Yeah,
it's normally like 2-3 years.
That's uncommon for Rockstar. Yeah. That's even quicker than they got Red Dead. I'm curious to see if Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be a day and date PC release. It feels like it has
they already said it's not. They already said it's not.
Oh, you're right. They said it's not. That's crazy.
Well, they put it out and they basically said in plain English why. Well, they didn't, but so all the Rockstar revenue leaked, and you saw that PC players weren't buying microtransactions. Yeah. And then this week, Strauss-Zelnick was like, yeah, we're prioritizing our core players, which is console, because they buy the microtransactions.
So if you're a PC gamer, you're a casual. The conversation comes full circle.
That's good podcasting. If anyone wants some
speaking of which, Chris, is it time for us to just bust into the news?
Yeah, let's bust on some news.
Well, if you're enjoying the podcast and you want to support it with more than just your time, head over to patreon.com/Nartech and consider giving as little as $1 per month. Helps us keep the show going without having to dig into our own pockets, and that is super helpful. So thank you to everyone who does so. If you are listening on YouTube, listening on podcast services, subscribe to the podcast. Keep up with it. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same. First piece of news we have here, as Chris was kind of referencing, Bank of America analysts publicly suggested that Rockstar should price Grand Theft Auto 6 at $80, saying it would be good for, quote, the entire industry. The idea is basically that if a game as massive as GTA 6 pushes prices higher successfully, other publishers would then feel more comfortable raising prices too. The argument comes from the belief that AAA development costs have exploded over the last decade, while game prices haven't risen at the same price relative to inflation. This is a long-running thing that we've been talking about. And regardless of what we talk about, people still seem to think that games are like a bad value for some reason. I don't understand that. This is a slight tangent, but Chris, did you see Joe shared something from our podcast buddy. Joe shared something that was somebody saying like the 007 campaign being announced as a 20-hour campaign means that they're going to skip out on it because it's a short campaign. That's fucking crazy. What else can you think of that's primarily an entertainment medium that has a visual element that you can get 20 hours out of for $7 or $70 that is 20 hours of consistently fresh content, and not just like, because you can buy a movie and watch it 10 times, but that's different. So like that's such a crazy thing to think through, in my opinion. Like, so to me, the implication of that statement is that games are a bad value.
Yeah,
that is an insane thought process to me. But continuing on. To be fair, GTA 6 is probably the one game in the world right now that could test a higher price point and still sell absurd numbers. What's interesting is that Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick didn't actually confirm any pricing. He mostly talked about value. Is this like the Chipotle CEO yesterday talking about value? Okay.
Yeah. Just ask for more, man.
Just ask for more. I'm going to next time I go in there. And the moment that they say, hey, that's a double on that meat, nah, bitch.
Your CEO said I could ask for more. Give me more.
Call him up, Mr. CEO. Anyway.
John Chipotle.
He said players need to feel like what they're getting is worth the cost. Damn, this is just the CEO. This is Chipotle. So right now, the $80 figure is still speculation and analyst talk, not an official announcement. But the story really blew up because people immediately started asking the obvious question. If Grand Theft Auto 6 goes to $80, does everybody else follow? Because historically, that's kind of how pricing shifts have worked in games. We saw it happen when the industry moved from $60 to $70 earlier this generation. Though a quick counterpoint that I think is worth noting is that Nintendo has moved to $80 and no one has followed them. But I do think it's worth pointing out that I'm sure there are people that really feel differently. I know I've seen this. But I think if there was a game to price at $80 and try to make it seem like this extreme value, it was not Mario Kart. It was not Mario Kart World. That is,
or the Outer Worlds too.
I'm not saying that you won't get 1,000 hours out of Mario Kart, but you got that same 1,000 hours out of Mario Kart 8 for $60 on the Wii U.
That realistically plays the same on the Switch too.
And so all I'm saying is, while we also have an example of historically games not following for whatever reason, this is what it is. This is interesting. I mean, Chris, we've long been talking about on this show that if there's one game I can really imagine that would push the value envelope, I think games like The Witcher 3, I think games like Starfield, if Starfield would have been a critical darling, like a legit critical darling like Skyrim was, I think that there could have been a real argument of people saying like they could have charged $80 for this game or even like $100. As long as the amount of perceived value and content within the game matches at a quality level that you think is up there, I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing. But I do agree with the general thing that you wrote in here, right? It's like GTA 6 feels like the most obvious example of a game that could really try this out.
Well, it seems like the only one that can get away with it. I can't think of any game coming out from any publisher where I would see $80 and be like, yeah, no big deal. That doesn't mean I wouldn't buy that game. Yeah. But like with Grand Theft Auto, like feel how you want to feel about the game. I know what I'm going to get for $80 is probably worth it. Sorry, it's true. Like, I don't know.
I mean, like looking at the flip side of it, I get it. Because when you are looking at if they set to 80 and it's worth 80, but then other publishers who have a lesser product, or a potentially lesser product, let's just say it that way, look and they go, oh, we can be $80 too. That will happen. Mm-hmm. It will. It'll at least be attempted. And I think that's the problem. And they say, and look, maybe it is truly good for the industry that as budgets balloon, but there is also a version of where everyone's value line is different. I always use this as my strongest example because I think it's the game that received the most flack for it, and it's just truly how I feel. I would spend $80 right now on a sequel to The Order that was the same length. But that's because I felt that the value proposition for The Order was fine for what I felt like I got out of it. And I understand that wasn't a universal feeling, and that's okay. But that does make this conversation just really difficult because there will be someone who goes, bro, I spent $20 on Silksong. $15? Silksong was $15, wasn't it? It was a super cheap, even if it was $20. That is a crazy value proposition.
And don't forget, developers were whining about it.
Yeah. So it's hard because, I mean, part of me wants to be like, if they could make a game to the quality that people view Silksong as for the amount of time that they made Silksong to, that game was in development for a long time. and they can come out of the other side saying that we think the value proposition of this game is $15, then what it really tells you is exactly one of the things I hinted at last week, which is that a lot of long dev time and therefore a lot of wasted costs that goes into games is paying for stuff that is not really going anywhere. It's wasted time. It's inefficient and ineffective development. And the thing that people really don't want to hear, and I know that this is a problem unique in some degree to AAA, is that the budget is so big that you have this sense of the game has to be even better. So you push towards that by, ironically, you're making it harder to make your money back, and you're making it a less interesting game by trying to flatten it out and broaden it out. I get that Silk Song had the benefit of just going, we're a small team. This is, even if it's a big budget game for us, this is a small budget game within the context of the industry. Like, that's a thing that's happening. But GTA 6, from a budget standpoint, can justify probably a much bigger price point than all of these games.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think there just needs to be more movement in pricing. And I don't know why people are resistant to that. Because I think the problem is that just because GTA 6 might be worth $70 or $80 or $100 or $1 million, that doesn't mean that other games are.
Yeah.
Right? Like, The Outer Worlds 2 is not an $80 game. It's not a $70 game. That was a $40 game. And I think there should be some more.
I will reserve judgment on that. I think Outer Worlds 1 was if I recall correctly, that with the Private Division, I think the Outer Worlds 1 released at $50.
Yeah, I meant whatever the price of Outer Worlds 1 is, they should have priced Outer Worlds 2 as.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. Is it kind of goes back, or ironically, it circles back to the conversation before. It's just it's just hubris from some game developers to think like, oh yeah, my game is worth as much as Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't think there's a world. To me, it feels like whatever price Grand Theft Auto 6 is the top. As in, your game can't cost more than this, and it probably shouldn't cost this. For whatever you want to say about Grand Theft Auto, whatever you want to say about how you hope it fails, or any of these kind of things that people are saying now, the reality of what Grand Theft Auto should be is nothing short of impeccable.
Yeah, this also falls on this weird thing that I talk about with business sometimes, which is, and I feel like I might be having a deja vu, like we have had a similar conversation in regards to Grand Theft Auto, is this idea that just because a game ostensibly can look at itself and say, there's no other game that has the quality and the amount of content that we have, so therefore our price point should be able to scooch up past that you could look at that and argue that that's true. But simultaneously, by doing so, you might is the very operative word, certainly for a game like Grand Theft Auto 6, but you might price people who would have bought your game in large part because it's a value proposition, and because they enjoy it, and because it's in their price range, all these factors, you might lose those people. So there's always a part of me that goes, even if you have like a really valuable product, like I'm not by any means saying that Grand Theft Auto should be priced at $40 because it's going to make it the most accessible to all people. Therefore, it'll sell even more. Because at the same time, it doesn't really matter. If they can sell the game at 80 and only lose 10% of their people, then that makes up for the people who would have bought it if it was 40 for everybody, because you're making double the amount for most people. So at that point, every purchase at 80 is effectively two purchases at 40, and with that in mind, I guess what I'm saying is you shouldn't always go the opposite direction, where if you can make your thing an even better value, you should lower the price because it's going to open it to more people and more people will buy it. But I do think there's a reason as to why you should maybe hold at a price that's common in your industry and go, games are $70. We're going to be $70, but we are going to be the most valuable $70 game for a large section of people. And therefore, a lot of people will buy it because our perceived value is so much greater than our competition. And so people will go to us in droves. It doesn't have to be that. I think we both know that even if the game was 80 or even 100, it would probably still sell very well. But there is a value in keeping it at the standard price point and just going, look at what these other people just can't pull off that we can, and reap the reward of people wanting to be like, yes, I've been waiting for a game that makes me feel like my $70 was that worth it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're muted, Big Poppy.
Yeah, no matter what, like, I don't know. GTA to me will probably be worth the price, and we'll see. It's going to be all up to personal opinion. I'm very much looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah. Well, let's scooch over to Capcom and back to talking a little bit about Pragmata. So in a recent interview, a Capcom USA executive basically hinted that Pragmata could become a larger franchise, saying the company now has, quote, another IP it can continue building on. And the timing makes sense. Actually, Chris, I'm going to be real with you. Did we not cover this last week in this exact form?
We actually might have, yeah.
Yeah, but what we can do to spin it around, because I did the news, I think, last week, or I don't remember how the hell we did it. Recording was weird, so it is what it is.
It was weird.
All that said, what does matter is that this is still basically the truth, because Pragmata today, I think, announced that it has now broken 2 million copies, which only took 16 days after hitting 1 million to hit 2 million. And for a new IP, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah. So, again, I'm excited to it. And I think at that point, what is important to say on here is I think it does kind of feel like Capcom's on one of those runs right now where like almost everything they touch turns into a hit. Resident Evil clearly has continued to do really well. Monster Hunter came out of nowhere to be like one of their biggest franchises with World. And even though it seems like Wilds is not quite holding to what World did, I think it would be hard to say that the game was a failure by any standard realistically, outside of a failure of what they hoped it could continue to be from a monetary standpoint. But I think the game did well and will probably still do well moving forward. It just won't be in the public conscious in quite the same way. But then you have Pragmata. So I think the coolest thing about this is that, kind of like I was talking about in a microcosm way with 8 within a single game and franchise, I think it's cool to see that they seem pretty comfortable experimenting with new ideas while still keeping the classic, like, oh, this is a Capcom game feel. And I think that Capcom may actually be one of the most capable developers at doing that in particular, where you play the game and you go, it's hard to describe, but this is a Capcom game, and I feel it to my and what's impressive about that is like Capcom's a big company with a lot of sub studios. It's not as surprising when Naughty Dog makes a game and you go, oh, this feels like a Naughty Dog game, because it's, even if it's the Ship of Theseus thing, the same developer worked on it. What's really interesting about Capcom is that they have multiple internal development teams, and yet all their games still have this glue to them that make you go, this just is a Capcom game still. Like I think Nintendo has that as well. Like I think you play a Nintendo game and regardless of how you feel about them, you go, oh, this feels like a Nintendo game. Yeah, Sony arguably has that with the third person over the shoulder camera thing, but that's a little too narrow, and I would actually like them to break out of that a little bit. And but it is what it is.
Yeah. Pragmata's great. I'm happy for their success, and it's nice to see the renaissance of Capcom. They're doing very well, so I'm happy for them.
Yeah, it's going to be curious to see if Konami, who I think floundered much more than Capcom did in their low points, I'm curious to see if they're going to continue to bounce up and become like a big name in gaming again, because there was a point in time that they were. And they're trying. Silent Hill 2 remake is a banger. That little octopus game that you can play looks super fun. That looks really good. Silent Hill 1 remake seems like it's going to be good. I keep forgetting to play Silent Hill F, but it looks like it's going to be, it looks great as well. So they got more than that, but they're on their way. I mean, they're getting promising again. We'll see if they can come up with it'd be cool to see them do a big AAA new IP, but I don't know that they will.
They'll get there.
Anytime soon, I should say, on my part. So, like you said, they'll get there. Last thing, news topic-wise, we're going to talk about is the PlayStation DRM scare that happened. So, as you may remember, there was a whole panic this past week where people thought that PlayStation was adding a mandatory 30-day online check for digital games. It was all over the place. Sony has finally clarified what's actually happening. Basically, players noticed that newly purchased PS4 and PS5 digital games suddenly had these 30-day timers attached to them after a recent system update. And naturally, people immediately went, are my games going to stop working if I stay offline too long? Sony has now confirmed that it's not a recurring monthly check-in system. Instead, it's apparently a one-time online verification after purchase to validate the license. Once that's done, the game becomes a normal permanent license and you can continue playing offline like usual. The current theory, which Sony hasn't outright confirmed but lines up with what people discovered, is that this was added to stop a refund exploit involving hacked consoles and digital licenses. The timing matches PlayStation's 14-day refund window almost perfectly. So overall, This ended up being a lot less dramatic than people initially feared, but it definitely sparked a huge conversation about digital ownership, DRM, and game preservation for a couple of days. Honestly, the fact that people immediately assume the worst probably says a lot about how sensitive players are to this stuff now, which I think is a fair point. And I think what's really interesting about that is that I know people were quick to jump to this, and I remember saying, like, you just need to wait for Sony to say something because they're going to have to say something eventually. I think there's a lot of value in criticizing Sony for taking so long to just outwardly say something. This was in the public conscious as a conversation for like a week and a half before Sony finally said something about it, which is too long for a company of Sony's size and reach to not be able to come out within the first day, at least 3 days, and go, this is what's going on. This is why it's happening. This is what actually is happening and not this version that you spilled. I can't believe they let a week and a half of people guessing and speculating. Was this supposed to be like the Marilyn Manson broken rib thing? Where it's like he took a rib out to suck his own dick. The Sony was like, no, let it go. It's good press. All press is good press. It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Well, to me, I'm wondering if they were trying to do it silently. And this was kind of my take from the beginning, is that people, if they hadn't accidentally had a public countdown there, nobody would have ever known that this was a thing. And I think the reason that they would have done it silently and not wanted to make a statement about it would be that they didn't want the people who were doing this stuff to realize that they knew. Or not even that they knew, but like, hey, they didn't want them to realize, like, okay, we're doing something about this. That's the only thing I can think of, right? Where you would want to be silent about it because you don't want people to know, oh shit, there's this exploit. I could be, that might be BS and crazy thing to say, but
I think the problem with that is that if this was in an effort to stop the exploit, you've already implemented a thing that's supposed to be counteracting it. But I guess you're still right. It's going to draw more people's attention to the exploit to begin with, which down the road could introduce a new problem that you still have to solve.
Like, I didn't know you could jailbreak your PS5 yet. So like,
this is apparently more of a PS4 issue. But it is still, you can jailbreak a PS5. Speaking of which, people got Linux running on PS5, and you can play games on Linux using Steam and the compatibility layer, the Proton compatibility layer. People are playing certain games on PS5 through Linux. Crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah. So I think a lot of it might have just been, hey, we're going to be quiet about this because we don't want A, the masses to know that they can break their consoles, and B, we don't want these people to like outwardly know we're screwing them, because there's probably some check that they did in this too, where now they'll know, okay, well, we know you're doing this and we see it on your console. So I wonder if it was just mitigating people being like, oh, we're hiding from this, or you know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I guess even then you could have outwardly said, hey, it's a one-time 30-day. Even if you don't want to go into the why, you can say what's actually happening. I think the weirdest thing was that they just didn't even confirm that A, it existed, which led people to kind of going back and forth, doomsaying about what was happening. Then eventually people started going, no, for sure, it's a real thing. It happened because this game is locked out now and they're not online. And that doesn't clarify that it's just a single 30-day. There are still problems within this, but I understand that a company has a real weird time trying to balance the two things, which is you want to make sure that you're not getting screwed over on a money standpoint, but you also want to leave as much freedom to your consumers as you can. And I think that it's a reasonable thing to say that given the way that digital purchases work, I think this is sensible. If you had internet access to install the game and buy the game digitally to begin with, I don't think it's a crazy ask to say one time after the return period, we want you to check in so that we can convert your license so that this exploit gets filled. I think it's reasonable. I'm glad it brought up a lot of people because I think it leads to what people fear from DRM still. This did feel similar, and you heard a lot of things going when Microsoft did this with Xbox back on the One X or the One S or whatever, the Xbox One originally. That there was a big outroar about it. There was a big outroar about this one. And there was a lot of talk again about the importance of physical games, which I actually think that I'm kind of glad this happened because it did give people a second to stop and go, there's still value in physical. And there is. But with all that said, I think that you could have controlled this narrative without showing your whole hand a lot better. That's the main thing I have to say.
You definitely could have. I just also think that every single one of these companies has this. So I thought it was really weird that we were upset about Sony for significantly better. People were comparing it to, excuse me, the Xbox One, 100 times better. No, what? Let me be clear, 30 times better than what the Xbox.
It was 24
hours. Is 30 times better than what the Xbox wanted. Steam has this. Xbox still has this. Switch definitely has it.
It doesn't affect used physical games like Xbox was originally going to have you do. Yeah, that's exactly an important thing to consider, yeah.
Well, but that's also not really true because most of the games, especially on Xbox, but even on PlayStation, they're not entirely on the disc.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think this is one of those times where, normally it's first world problem, but this is like, it felt to me like people in the first world pretending that they were having, military submarine
who
problems.
Don't have access to the
No,
stuff.
I don't even think that because I don't know. I've said this before, but I think if you have a PS5 and you have a TV that can run it at high quality and you're buying $70 games, this DRM check is the least of your worries. And I think it's really dumb to freak out about having to connect one time in 30 days, which again, all of them do, including fucking God Gaben over there. You have to check in for your games. So it feels dumb in an era where the internet is almost ubiquitous. The quality of that internet is not ubiquitous, but internet itself pretty much is. And I don't know. It just seemed dumb. Like, who's offline right now?
I'll give you the people who continued to complain about it once it was clarified what it was. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of a crazy thing to complain about because, like you said, it's in line with what a lot of other people do. I think when it was initially thought of as a continual every 30 days, your license is only ever 30 days active. I think there's a lot more reason to be vocal and upset about that. Even if internet's ubiquitous, it's just a why. And I think it still is a big conversation. And I think you and I are just inherently on opposite ends of this. But like for me, I think it's a big question. I think you should be able to go, why are you saying that I am buying this game?
They're not.
If I'm not. And I think that's a really important question. They do. All of their language is buy.
It says license. I checked. You buy a license that can be revoked.
Not long ago. Yeah, they changed it not long ago because of people bringing this to light, which is the right call. Because my big thing is, I think if people want to buy digitally, they should absolutely have the access to do so. And as long as they're clear about what a digital purchase is, I think that ultimately it's okay. What digital purchases have become, definitely now that there's a refund window for you to do things, I am perfectly happy with where they are. I would like to see them do so much more. I would like it to be real ownership that you can transfer and loan and things like that. But I get it. And I get to some degree why that is a bit more of a difficult thing to do than others. With a disc, as long as the game is fully on the disc, which I'll give Xbox and PlayStation credit, thankfully, Switch 2 has a much bigger problem with this. There is a much larger section of games on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles that are fully playable from the disc, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. So, were you reading the back of the case to see if it said a license as well?
It does.
Yeah.
You're not buying the game. You never were, ever, though. That's the misconception. You're buying a license to play the software. I'm not trying to, I don't know. It's dumb because I don't inherently
Here's the really big difference, though, right? I get, you're right, but you're always buying a license to anything because you don't own Star Wars.
Sure.
Star Wars is on the whatever, it is a file. These days, it's a file that was created, like the newest Star Wars movie is a file on a hard drive that one person owns.
Yeah.
And maybe they own copies of it. And anybody who's pirated it has an illegal copy of it. They own it, but they shouldn't. So that's how that works. But what I will say is that there's a big difference between buying a disc, which is a license and a key that unlocks the data on the disc for you to play. Whether you have internet or not, does not matter. They cannot revoke that at their own will. It's all built into the hardware. There's nothing they could do short of putting a system update that you could choose to not do that would stop you from being able to play your disc. Whereas when you buy a game digitally, you are strictly buying a license that they can at any point in time take from you, at any point in time choose to refund you for it like some people have, or not, and just take the access away. And if they ever shut their servers down, you just lose access to it. Compare that to a disc, which is still a license, but for a game that's fully on the disc. If their servers shut down, you still have the disc that has the contents of the game and the license key that tells the system that you do own the game in the way that we mean for ownership of that. And short of Sony kicking your door down and coming and taking your physical game, which no one would reasonably expect, they can't take that from you. You're right, but it's an important difference.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not speaking from a place of like, oh, this is right. I'm speaking of a place of people should probably start learning what they're actually buying.
Agreed.
Because I think that would mitigate a lot of this.
And that includes, like, in a way, with what I'm talking about, I think it's annoying that most Switch 2 games on cartridge are not actually on the cartridge. They're just game key cards. But for as ugly as it makes the cases, I am at least glad that Nintendo is very upfront on all the packaging, that even if you're buying a physical game from Nintendo, if it's a game key card, if their servers ever go down or they pull the game for some reason from their servers, you're still fucked. It doesn't matter if it's physical. There's nothing to it's a license and a key without the data. And so as ugly as it is, I'd rather that be broadcasted bigly, because you get to make an informed choice about the form of ownership that you want to take on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to make arguments for or against this. I think that
fair. Yeah.
I just think that we as gamers should probably learn what we're buying and what we're participating in. I go into all my digital purchases knowing that I don't own, or it could be taken away at any point. But that the convenience of not having to switch discs make it worth it. But it's not like I'm not a physical game collector. Everyone knows I am. So it's just, to me, like, I know what I'm buying. So like when I saw this, I was like, okay. And then we moved, people freaked out about it. And I think I don't know. I think using your voice is important. I think where this conversation ended, which was basically like kind of what I wrote, nothing burger. Like, it just kind of,
yeah.
So then if you're going to argue for this, go continue arguing, because you didn't change anything. Yeah.
You didn't suddenly win. The information behind it just changed. Yeah.
Yeah, the information behind it just went, I'm accepting this level of DRM. And it's like, if you're against DRM, then just be against DRM. Like, and then let's argue for that, because I could see that. Yeah, I think it's in the customer's best interest.
Thing, right? Of this is gonna sound weird, but it's just I got to credit the person who said it and that I heard it from, and that I thought was interesting is some people give Jordan Peterson shit for saying that belief is something that you stake your life on. Whenever they use it to say, like, he's famously he uses that to, like, basically he dodges the question of whether or not he believes in God, right? And whenever he hears people use the word believe, he often is like, no, a belief is something you stake your life on. And whether or not you agree with him, I think there's something to be said about there's a difference in what you claim to believe whenever you don't have to face it directly, and what you believe when your action requires you to show in real time that you believe it. And to that end, I think what's happening with the DRM situation here is that there are people who do believe inherently in their mind that they are against DRM, but only when they think they're going to have to face it. They don't really care when it's not directly involving them. They don't really put that much skin in the game, and that's why they back off right now when they go, oh, it's not really that? Okay, I'm not going to worry about it, and this will quietly disappear. In a way, I understand, and I get it. It's easiest to believe in something and want to fight against it when you feel like it's actively affecting you. And it's easiest to disengage with something, even if you think you believe in it, when it doesn't directly impact you.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of what's happening here, because I think that you make a lot of really good points about the way that we interact with gaming and buying things, and even not gaming, just all digital licenses. And I think it's good to be informed. And that's a good argument. And there are good arguments on the other side of people being like, this is why it's important to not have DRM in this way, and here are the problems they can have. But that doesn't mean that it's not a little funny and kind of true whenever someone goes, oh, look, it's people online using the internet to complain about having to use the internet to play the thing that they use the internet to buy and download. That is true. It is a somewhat ironic statement.
Well, it's like, tweeting on Twitter about how much you hate Elon Musk from your iPhone.
Oh, that's
like,
so
okay,
funny.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Even if there's real value to some of the things you're saying, it's a little funny in the way it's wrapped up and packaged. It's like, oh,
exactly.
this is interesting. So we'll see. We got a couple of questions that we're going to quickly move through. I think we got to bring this episode to an end, unfortunately. So we're going to try and not rush through them, but we're going to try and get to them all the same. The first one comes from our newest patron, the Boris Boar. He says, I've really been enjoying Saros. I love all the Hindu references with its concept of reincarnation. It really is perfect for a roguelite. Returnal was inspired by Greek mythology, which we see a lot in games. So my question to you guys is, what are some of the more obscure mythologies you would like to see in game? So Chris, I'm going to pass that off to you as a starting point. I think there's a chance that we run into a conversation about what qualifies as a mythology, and some people can get offended sometimes, depending on the way that you use the word. But I'm going to let you kind of start with whatever you think a mythology is. What's something that you feel like, even if you've seen it in a game, that you'd like to see more often or see used in a cool way?
I think I like Celtic mythology. I think that's pretty cool. I did some reading about that recently. But I know it's a kind of a tired answer, but I would like to see Christian or Catholic. I don't know what the proper term is, but that mythology used in an interesting way. That's not, I Am Jesus Christ, that simulator that came out. Like, I would like to see that used in a God of War. I would like to see, I think it would be cool. Like, is it that hard to make a game about Kratos killing the 9 apostles and then reaching Jesus? Like, no, I feel like that would be cool as shit. And you could figure that out.
Yeah. So you touch on exactly what I was kind of actually skirting around there, and I was going to get into it on mine as well. And I want to start this off by saying that for anybody, to get ahead of anybody, it's not maybe the exact thing that you just described, but in terms of seeing it in a game and seeing it used in an interesting way, Dante's Inferno is a good example of something that's close to that. And I really thought Dante's Inferno was cool, but that leads to the secondary thing of seemingly why we have such a problem with people being able to do that is since that is the overwhelming world religion, you end up with this problem of people being so offended. And I do think it's funny because all these other things are utilizing and referencing, and of course it depends on how it's done, but I think that there's a lot of interesting information within the Judeo-Christian, that's probably the word I would use, the Judeo-Christian belief system that you could really work and make some interesting things with. But first and foremost, some people get upset when you use the word mythology because of how they perceive, I don't say perceive, their belief is that this is 100% real and this is what happened, which I think gets into some interesting conversations around the way that you interact with religion. Because I often say that I am not a religious person. I'm agnostic because I don't know where we came from or anything, but I'm also not belittling to people who do believe. And I think there's some cool stuff that can come with belief, and there's some problematic stuff that can come with belief in anything that you believe too hard. But I always use an example of if you look at the book of Genesis and you tell me that is not mythology, I think that's really hard for me to swallow because I think that it uses mythological wording and framing, and we have learned so much through science that seems to directly fight against it if you want it to be historical. But I don't think that I guess we'll never know, but I don't think that even the person who wrote Genesis intended for it to be historical. It's meant to be mythological. It's creating this sense of something around something that is not supposed to tell you exactly what happened, rather than it's supposed to tell you truths through stories that interact with the world in a way that supports this belief system, whether or not it really did or didn't happen.
Well, this is going to offend people, and I don't mean it in an offensive way, but I think you'd probably agree with me. Every religion is just their version of Aesop's fables. Every single one. And it's not even an insult.
It might be a bit reductive, but I get it. I get what you're coming from.
Of course it's reductive, but it's all about, all the stories are talking about morality, and it's all trying to give you a belief system, right? It's,
I think to some degree, ways, I think one important aspect of what typically constitutes a religion, at least to some degree, And you gotta be careful about that, because I think that you can reduce religion to essentialism, where it's like it has to have certain components to be qualified. I don't know if I quite buy into that. But I'd say that a common motif amongst religion that Aesop's fables don't necessarily touch on is like a creation myth, right? Like a belief in how we came about.
I more just meant like, I feel like they're always usually written as like these small stories to tell single, like, I don't know what the right term is for it, but like moral judgments, right? Like, you know, Thor drinking from the chalice that continues to fill itself up, and, you know, basically getting himself sick. It's like it's a funny story, and it's a mythology story, but it's really talking about like the dangers of gluttony. You know what I mean? Right? Like,
yeah. I like to say that it's about, like, the stories are about true, like it's fictional stories about truths.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not true that he drank from a cup, or it's unlikely to be true that he drank from a cup that was continuously filling himself, but the result of the action is a truth that we can experience if we partake in the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
What would you even call that? Like a meta truth? Would it be like
it's a metaphor? It's just a metaphor.
It's truth that expands past the bounds of what you're talking about, and you're using a story to mold it into a version of something. It's like, that's how I view Cain and Abel. I don't view Cain and Abel as two people that really existed. I view them as people that's like, it shows you what humans can become, and what this dichotomy of these two people and how they interact with each other, and these feelings of jealousy, and these are things that are always happening and are always true, regardless of whether you put them behind Cain and Abel, which could or could not be a real story, or if you put them to you and someone that you have jealous feelings toward, right? You can see some of both Cain and Abel within yourself, because those are like truths that exist outside of the realm of the story that you're telling them through. I mean, isn't that what all fiction is reframing ideas and truths that we feel into a version that gives them to you in a different way? And there's the fun is pulling out the truths and figuring out what you think about it through the fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. I would like to see that. I guess if we want to avoid offending people, we could call it paganism, because it's the same thing. Anyway. Yeah, that would be my answer. Would be, let's go with paganism. I'll make everyone happy.
That one, that's not really super far from mine, but I think I spend a lot of time doing like religious like history and stuff like that, like looking into religious discussions, even though I'm not actively a religious person, but I think religion's super interesting. Yeah. Again, it's storytelling. I think the storytelling's so cool.
The Bible's one of the best works of fiction I've ever read.
I think that there's two that kind of come to mind that I think would be interesting. I think that there would be an interesting case for taking on a version of Judeo-Christian that is kind of this spin-off called Gnosticism, where it's people who have a different belief. And a lot of this is rooted around the idea that God still created us. Jesus is still the Son of God, and he's doing all these things. But the difference is that we are in a material world through essentially like a cosmic accident. Some people even go as far as to say like another God, which, I mean, if you look at the Bible, people say that there's only one God, but the Bible, the Old Testament specifically, by name calls out other gods. I think that's why you typically go capital G God versus lowercase g God. But the idea is that this lesser God formed the material world, which is why the material world is imperfect, and our souls became entwined with the material, and that Jesus came to show us the way for our souls to recombine with their actual place in the spiritual world, separate from physical matter. And there's a lot of interesting things that come along with that. And I think that could be interesting to see explored. But I actually think something that has a much bigger wealth of information that you could do some interesting things with is if you go to like Sumerian, like what kind of predates Judeo-Christian stuff, but it's still from like the same region of the world. Sumerian religion has got this thing called the Epic of Gilgamesh, which has recently gained some popularity because of Billy Carson, I think maybe the dude's name, who goes around pages, right? Reads it. I don't know. I don't want to go too far into things that may have happened with it there. I don't know. But there's a lot to it. and it has like similar stories. Like everybody knows that there's a flood myth in pretty much every. There's one that predates the Epic of Gilgamesh. I can't remember what it's called, but it's thousands of years prior to it, and it touches on all the same things. There's a flood, there's an ark, you build it for different, they're built similar ways with similar measurements and stuff. So clearly this is like a story that has some kind of value to us. But that's like a whole different thing, right? This is like Gilgamesh is the son of this other dude who has these things going on in life, and there's other gods, and like that framing, it's got like, originally Yahweh actually kind of came from that, and the idea is that Yahweh eventually became like the god of other gods by becoming more powerful and greater than all of them. But yeah, it's stuff like that, like thunder gods and like like storm gods and all these other things. There's so much you can do with that type of living. I mean, part of me wants to like do like Mesoamerican stuff too. I think that like a lot of the Aztec and Mayan religions are really cool, and they do get some love here and there. I think it'd be cool to see them get a bit more. We've had a recent run of cool Japanese religious beliefs, like a lot of their spiritual stuff, like Shinto forests and shrines and stuff like that are going through, and kind of their understanding of spirits and demons and good and bad spirits. And we see a lot of that, thankfully, because a lot of gaming is Japanese and that stuff is very focused around Japanese culture. Even if they don't actively believe it all the time, it's still like it's part of the culture. It's like it's kind of like there are people who are not religious, but even if they're not aware of it, a lot of religious thought permeates American culture anyway. So
yes,
yeah, it's like you're there anyway. So there's a lot of cool ones, but I always thought Dante's Inferno was such a cool idea on like the kind of like old school take of Catholicism, and this idea like there's layers to hell and you kind of move through the layers, and there's different rings and layers based on the sin that you committed. Oh, that's such a cool idea, and I think you're rife with possibility on storytelling. And so we got Dante's Inferno for that, and in a weird way, we also got a similar thing with what is that Grasshopper manufactured game? I can't think of right now. They recently re-released it. Shadows of the Damned. Oh. It's a spin on that, and it's doing the same thing where he's moving through the circles of hell.
There's an overtly Christian game, actually. Now that I'm thinking of it, I can't remember it. El Shaddai, wasn't that like overtly Christian? Am I crazy?
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure what that is.
El Shaddai, very good, but
is it? Oh, El Shaddai Ascension of the Metatron.
I think so.
Oh, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think Metatron and all these people is like I think it's like a non-canon book of the Bible that people often point to.
Yeah.
So
it's the book.
Yeah,
of Enoch.
It's based off the Book of Enoch. Yeah, which is plenty of people consider to be non-canon, and other people do consider it canon. So it's where do you fall? But yeah, I like stuff like that. I definitely think there is something cool. Like there is a side of it where you can look. Yeah, you can look and be like, oh, everybody knows the Christian. Like a lot of people know the Christian religion, or at least think that they know it. And so maybe it's not as interesting to see a game played out around that. But one of the things I think is cool about it is using things that are in relation to Christianity, but not actually commonly known anymore, like the Gnostic Gospels and like the Book of Enoch, and even things that like predate it, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. Those are all really cool ways in which you can tie around things that are from it. But I think a lot of people like the idea of playing games for things that they're more comfortable calling mythology. I think everybody feels comfortable saying like, oh yeah, Greek mythology, but the question becomes is, did the people at the time of the Greek mythology and like its time in the sun, did people really believe that the gods existed? And if they did, then in many ways calling it mythology now is the same as me calling Christianity a mythology in the same sense. Whether or not I think that that's actually what it is, I'm unsure. But I think it's interesting to hold something so dear. But I get it; it's your belief system and something that you kind of. Again, do you stake your life on it? And if you do, then I get that it's rough to hear it be called mythology, because we seem to take mythology to mean not real, when what I really mean by that is mythology can be in relation to something that is real, but it's still a mythological take on it.
Everything that happens in the past is technically mythology.
You think so?
I'm talking about the last 2 hours and 37 minutes of this podcast are technically mythology.
There we go.
It's seriously, because the thing with time and especially memory is that your memories are not what actually happened most of the time. It's what you remember. It's all
your memories
your
themselves are mythologized. Yeah, actually, exactly. I agree with that. Yeah. So there you have it. Hope that was fun for you. I hope we didn't offend anybody. I definitely didn't aim to. I know we have a Catholic priest who hit me up and said if we Freaky Friday body swap, he'll hook us up with an exorcism in case that helps. Thought that was nice. It was a cool offer. Appreciate that. So the last thing that we have is from Jehudi MD. He says a quick game. Each of you write down your top 3 games without the other knowing what they are. So we have to do that first. Chris, are you ready?
I got a pen. Let me get a thing to write on.
I just got to use Google Keep, but it'll work.
I have 4 keyboards next to me. 2 keyboards next to me right now. I'm not doing that. All right, I've got paper. What's my top 3 games of all time?
Yeah. Got it.
Okay, go ahead. What's next?
All right, so he hid some text that I was only supposed to reveal once we were in the podcast. And
I didn't look.
Step.
I've been waiting to find out what this is the whole time.
Okay, so here we are. Then you have to leave one for good, take one to play forever, trade one with the other person to play forever.
Damn.
After that, you reveal your games and choices and chat about the results. Okay, this is going to get real interesting.
So I'm leaving one forever.
Yeah, one you have to leave away forever.
Oh, that's hard. Okay.
That is hard.
Okay. What's the next stipulation?
Okay, the next stipulation is that you have to take one to play forever.
Okay, easy.
Then you have to trade one with the other person, and they will have it to play forever.
Okay. All right, sure.
It's funny because it might move your goal, because if you're like, I would like this person to have to play this game so they can see how great it is, but then I'd lose access to it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's an interesting little game. So let's go ahead and reveal our 3, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right, Chris, I'll pass to you first. What were your 3?
Red Dead 2, KCD2, Balatro.
Nice. Nier Replicant, Kingdom Hearts, Shadow of the Colossus.
Christ. Okay.
All right, look alive, boys. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is cull the one that we can never play again.
Red Dead 2 for me.
Red Dead 2. You know what? I'm going to say this as a strong point towards Red Dead 2.
Mm-hmm.
The game and the story, when they're hitting together, they are so good that I don't think I ever need to play Red Dead 2 again anyway.
It's kind of my thought process on it.
I feel pretty confident letting it go. Arthur's story is fantastic, and I will never forget it, and I'm good with that.
Yeah,
which leads me to why it's so hard on mine. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I said I could never play RDR2. Yeah. All right, what's yours?
That one's a little interesting though, because that game has got a lot of ways to play it that aren't the main story. So I feel like that game has got a wide breadth of you being able to create other types of challenges and games within that game to make it more fun for a longer period of time. But I respect it all the same. I respect it all the same. Okay, so if I have to kill one, I'm having to go through that same thing, right? Is there one obviously on my list where I'm like, I never need to play it again? And this is hard because I think the thing with all 3 of mine is they're all great stories in my opinion. And they're all fun games in my opinion. But sometimes I'm like, what's more fun in the way that they break up? So part of me wants to say that the one I want to kill forever is Shadow of the Colossus, because I've played it so many times that I don't need to play it anymore. And I'll never forget how great that game is. But at the same time, Shadow of the Colossus is kind of fun because it's a boss rush. It's just boss after boss after boss. But then you lack a little bit of variety in the in-between. But as you know, I don't have the platinum in either version of Nier or Nier Replicant, the original Nier, because there are parts of that game towards getting, at least for getting the trophy, that are very annoying. That doesn't necessarily mean that it'd be annoying to play forever, but I clearly have more of a friction point with that. I think I'm gonna kill Shadow of the Colossus. You know what? Okay. No, Chris, I want you to play Shadow of the Colossus and like really play it. So here's the thing, Chris. You say that, but do you want Shadow or Nier? Because I'm not trading Kingdom Hearts off. I've already determined that. Like Kingdom Hearts is probably my play forever game.
I was gonna be real. That's the game I was hoping for to trade. So
you wanted me to trade you Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, I would rather play that. I mean, Shadow of the Colossus probably.
Yeah, okay. So I'll kill Nier Replicant. I'll never be able to play it again.
Okay.
It's okay. I've also beaten that game a lot of times. It's very good.
Do I forget Nier Replicant? Do I forget Red Dead forever
if I delete it? That's a whole other ball game. But it's not in the rules, so no, you don't.
Okay.
We get to remember the good times. So yeah, I'm gonna let go of Nier Replicant, never play it again. Thankfully, I got to play the remaster before this happened, so I'm good. Kingdom Hearts, I'll hold on to and play forever, and then Shadow of the Colossus, I will trade to you so that you can play it.
Got you. Damn.
So what are you inflicting on me? Red Dead is gone. Are you keeping Balatro forever?
I think I'm giving you Balatro.
I'm cool with that. I like Balatro.
Hey, it's a significantly better deal for you than me.
That's true. None of mine are games that are necessarily known for their infinite replayability.
Bro, you said your games, and I just went, oh.
Maybe I should have told you them before we knew the rules.
Oh. Well, no, because it's still my top 3 games of all time are these 3. So it's like, it's still following the rules. Mine just appeals to me more.
You know, one of the things that I think is really interesting about our list is I think most of your list is a lot more modern than mine. A lot of mine are games that I played 10 years ago, or if not longer, for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know if I want to say nostalgia, but to some degree, there's a sense of potential recency bias in yours. And I'm not saying it's not because they're actually the better games. It's just interesting that
there's no recency bias in here is because I wrote down Marathon and erased it. So there's definitely no recency bias.
I'm just really surprised
just we've talked about
Fallout 3, you know?
Me too, but Fallout 3 has fallen on my list significantly.
You know, in a way, I'm proud of you because I think Fallout 3 is a great game. I'm almost always surprised when it's someone's top game of all time. You know? Like, I'm not saying they're wrong for it. There's just a lot.
I just spent so much time with it as a kid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to break the nostalgia from it.
That's my nostalgic one. I remember I bought it on my birthday by myself. It was one of the first games I bought with my own money.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so you can have Balatro because I would play KCD2 for the rest of my life if I could.
That's fair. Maybe KCD2 will join my pantheon once I'm done with it. I'm not there yet.
That would be nice. It's funny because I was looking at my list. I almost gave you KCD2 because objectively out of all of our lists, Balatro is the best forever game.
Oh, agreed. I don't think KCD2 is not a bad forever game, but at least in what I've played so far, I don't know. Maybe KCD2 and Red Dead both kind of have that ability to create secondary games within the game. Like if you just wanted to play KCD2 and just walk around and play Dice forever, you could.
Oh, Dice is so fun. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thing. Red Dead. My thinking was basically like, I already played it twice and I want you to finish it so I can play it again.
That's fair. One of the things I kind of think that maybe KCD2 has over Red Dead is that I think it's a little easier for it to be like a life simulation game if you want to play that game. And I think what can make that cool is like if you just go, I'm going to play KCD2, I'm going to get past the opening, and then Henry's just going to be a simple blacksmith. He's going to live his life out, owning his craft, selling blacksmith items. Maybe I'll wander around here and there, but role play as a blacksmith. Like what would I do in this situation as someone who can only blacksmith their way around the problem? And then you can be like, I'm going to play the game and be an alchemist, and I'm only going to be able to, how will I approach it if I'm doing that? There's a lot of mileage, I think, out of that game in that regard that Red Dead 2 doesn't have, even though you can like give yourself a pseudo feeling of like, well, I'm going to just walk around and pretend to be a person in Red Dead 2. I think there's less options for you to actually act in a way that that the game supports. You could create like I'm walking. I don't even know. Can you chop wood in Red Dead 2? I definitely don't remember that being a thing that's even available.
I don't think you can.
Like I think you could play Skyrim more like a life simulator than you could Red Dead 2 because you can chop wood and shit. And you could be a blacksmith in Skyrim. It's different. It's not to the same degree. What I like about KCD2 for this in particular is that it going so hard on craftsmanship being something that you have to actually do the physical labor on is that it feels more rewarding to be a good blacksmith. Whereas in Skyrim, it's just see number grow up.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, Chris, does that mean that's where we are? That's the final version of the list. You hold on to KCD2?
I'm still fighting with myself over Balatro, but I think I'm giving it to you.
Okay.
Because I still got the KCD2 DLC I haven't played. So.
Oh yeah, so you need to be able to still play it so you can play the DLC. It's fair.
Exactly.
Fair.
I have to start a whole new playthrough because it's
and
a
who's
whole
to
game
say
thing.
who's to say that you can't play Balatro 2 when it finally comes out? We'll see.
Balatro crawlers.
Oh God, yeah. The Vampire Survivors leading out into a bunch of stuff has been interesting to see.
You should check on my account if you can download the KCD2 DLC.
We'll see. Will this be the one time I play a DLC?
Well, the one I really want to try is like what I read in the reviews is horrendous if you beat the game, incredible if you're starting it. It gives you a house and you can upgrade your house.
Try
and
to
build
weave
out
into my playthrough.
Yeah, it's not really like a story DLC. It has some story, but like you get a home, and as you progress through the game, you build up that house. So the reviews are basically saying if you've beaten the game, it's just fetch quests for hundreds of logs of wood.
Tedious. Yeah.
It's not worth doing. But if you're doing it as you're playing the game, it's good. And then there's a whole blacksmithing quest that's an actual DLC.
Yeah, I can see that. That'd be pretty cool. Well, all right, Chris, that wraps us up for this episode. We're all done. So thank you so much to both of our people who asked questions. They were both patrons. Thank you guys for your continued patronage of the show. And you know what? Thank you if you listen to the show and you're not a patron. We still appreciate you giving us your time. There's so many places you could give it to. So thanks for listening to us talk about our, what'd you call them, Chris? Our better opinions than others?
Exactly. Our objectively correct opinions.
All right. With that said, again, if you want to head over to patreon.com/Nartech and give as little as $1 per month to support the show, you can do so. We are super thankful to those who do. And one of the ways that we thank them is by giving them a shout out at the end of each and every episode. So without further ado, we'd like to thank the Boorish Boar, Grime Kid 1989, FR Damian Quigley, Ryan Goldner, Nate Cole, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Sean Easton, Bailey Robertson, TT Dog 666, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, and Sean Santarud. Thanks to all of you. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.